much like going on a journey. This is a journey, it's a journey that's going to lead you to Nibbana. We understood why it was important to become Sothapanna, to not just avoid, avoiding the hells is an absolute benefit of it. But then we also discussed in some length as to, well, okay, let's say you avoided the hells. What about life as a human being? Does that not bring you pain and suffering? And if so, how can you avoid that? The human realm is not a hell, but clearly you see people sometimes in great stress, great anguish and pain. Poor people who've lost all they've ever worked, all their life they worked for things to collect material wealth and possessions. Their loved ones gone. So even if you avoid the hells, you've still got the human realm to deal with. And then we said why even going into the heavens it's a very temporary thing. It's like you put money in your bank account, you withdraw that, the moment, as soon as you run out, the bank's not going to give you money for nothing. They might give you an overdraft, but they charge you interest for it. So they want something in return for that. Unfortunately, with merits, you can't buy merits on credit. If you have merits, you can spend them. If you don't have merits, it's a bit like your phone credit. If you run out of it, you've got to go and get more. You can't go into a minus balance. Okay, so therefore we understand that there's a fundamental problem here that we're trying to solve, and the only salvation is actually attaining Nibbana. Otherwise, we've been there, we've been here, we've been all around the place, and we just keep doing it without a permanent solution. Now, oftentimes when we talk about becoming Sothapanna and also fulfilling this path, there's a concept called the 10 fetters, which I think we've discussed previously to some extent, but we'll try and, especially for our new listeners, try and give an introduction to that, and how when you travel on this journey, when you take this journey, when you travel on the path to Nibbana, understanding the Dhamma, putting it into practice, how does that eradicate the 10 fetters, one by one, step by step? What are fetters? In Sinhala, the word for that is Sanyojana. What are fetters? What do you think fetters are? So fetters are bonds. They're things that keep you bound to what? To Samsara, indeed. Forgive me, I've got a cough that I've been trying to treat for probably about 2 or 3 months now, and it's not going anywhere. But hopefully I can continue talking and you can still hear me despite the distractions. The 10 fetters, right? There are 10 fetters that the Buddha not prescribes, but he says these are the things that bind you to Samsara. Now, when you become a Sothapanna, there are 3 of these that disappear forever. They will never bind you to Samsara. You're still in Samsara, but imagine. So think again. I'll give you a picture. Okay, say as a human being, you stood somewhere, and someone attached a hook onto your body, and then tied you to some kind of pole. So there are 2 poles on either side, and there are hooks that are attached to your body. Like how they do these various religious practices. People hung onto hooks, and some walk on fire. Some, like Hindus practice a lot of this. So it's like there's a hook that's attached to your body through your skin, and there are 10 of these, and that is what binds you to these poles that are on either side. Now you want to run away. You understand there's a problem here. You're stood on fire. You're stood on fire and you want to escape. But as you try to run away, you can't, because these hooks are attached to wire or to rope, and that's tied to these poles. And you're trying to run away, and it's not doing anything. You can't move. So then you think, okay, how do I unhook myself? So the Lord Buddha says there are 10 of these that are attached to you. The 3 that disappear, you eradicate. The moment you become a Sothapanna, are Sath Kaya Dittiya, Chi Ki Ichcha, and Seelabbatha Paramasa. Now I'll try and give English translations to this, but more than trying and remembering what the English term for it is, what's important is try and understand the meaning behind it. Okay? In fact, some people actually try to unhook themselves forcefully. So, if I were to improve on that metaphor what I gave, think of it as if, imagine, so rather than actually them being hooks that are hooked onto your body, you're actually holding onto them, but not realizing that the reason you can't run away is actually because you're holding onto them with your own hands. And these, you could just as easily just let go of them, but you're not. But you don't realize that. It's me that's holding on to this. You're thinking actually something is tying me into samsara. Why is it not letting me go? Well, actually the thing is you're not letting it go. That's the difference. Okay. So what some people try and do is to try and let go of these attachments, these bonds, sort of artificially, by force. And that doesn't quite work, because they think, okay, so the Buddha has said, if you eradicate Sath Kaya Dittiya, Chi Ki Ichcha and Seelabbatha Paramasa, you become Sothapanna. That's not what the Buddha said, but that's what most people think that the Buddha has said. What the Buddha has said is, once you become a Sothapanna, Sath Kaya Dittiya, Chi Ki Ichcha and Seelabbatha Paramasa are gone forever, not the other way around. Does that make sense? Okay, 3 bonds. You don't let go of it to become Sothapanna. Once you become Sothapanna, they disappear. They are eradicated. Let's try and understand how that happens. So, what is the understanding of a Sothapanna? How is a Sothapanna different from a pruthagjana? What is a pruthagjana? Sorry? Normal people. Yeah, people who haven't heard the teaching of the Lord Buddha, that is Anichcha. Okay. So a Sothapanna then is what? Or someone at least who's on the path, a stream enterer. Stream enterer is the word for Sothapanna in English. But at least someone on the path to that stage is a Sothapanna margasthukana. Okay? Marga is the road and Phalaya is the fruit. So if you're on the road, you get to the fruit. What's the difference between someone like that and a pruthagjana? Do they look any different? Is it the haircut? Is it what color clothes they wear? No. It's their understanding, right? What is their understanding? Yeah. So the Sothapanna would define this world as being asara. They would understand that this world is asara. And how would they come to that understanding? Yeah, by understanding the dukkha. So they look at what's the problem here, what's the core problem that I'm trying to fix. Remember we talked about putting plasters on wounds. This is not that. Sothapanna understands, that's what I've been doing my entire samsara. I've had wounds that I've been plastering. But now I understand where the root of this problem is, and I want to try and pull it out from its roots. Bhava, Manakaranada, BuduBana. That helps you become a Buddha. Right? So, cast your mind back to the previous discussions we've had. This is what you need to do. Pull everything together. Every day we talk a little bit from here, a little bit from there. What you need to do is something called Yoniso Manasikaraya. I'll talk about that today as well. Is the bits and pieces that it's like a puzzle. You do a little bit on the left, you do a little bit on the right, top left, top right, a little bit in the center, and then when you start seeing, okay, I can now relate this in my mind. You look at a picture and you go, that's what I'm trying to recreate. So when a little bit of this comes together, you have a mental picture of what the rest might look like, and that's what you're trying to do, right? So that's what you need to do the things we talked about in previous weeks. Pull them together. Try and draw those links in your own mind. So, you've been listening to Dhamma for a long time, and you should be able to do this. So, the Sothapanna, once a pruthagjana listens to Dhamma, they come onto the path that takes them to the stream entry. Sothapanna marga. Then they do the three things, or the four things, which is Yoniso Manasikaraya. So that is, I will explain again what Yoniso Manasikaraya is. Okay? Dhamma, Anudhamma, Prathipadawa. I'll try and bring up English terms as well to try and help you relate to this. Kalyana Miththa sevane, associating. It's not a good friend. I mean, everyone has good friends. Who's a Kalyana Miththa? Again, we'll come to that. And Kshana Sampaththiya. Saddhamma Shravane, Kshana Sampaththiya. So these are 5 things that the Buddha says, one needs if they want to attain Nibbana. I mean, I think, Sashi, you started this question, and now we've been talking about it for a few weeks now, because it was a really important question. So we'll talk about all of this in some detail today. At least make a start, and then you can continue. So, a pruthagjana listens to the Dhamma. They do a few things with that Dhamma. It's not just a case of, okay, otherwise you could just sit there, I've got my ears open, just say whatever you want to say. You've said it, now I go away. No one becomes a Sothapanna like that. You have to do something with it. Last week I said, knowledge is not power. What is power? Knowledge in use, knowledge put into action. That's power. Okay? Right. So, when a pruthagjana, what are the 5 things then that the pruthagjana needs to become a Sothapanna? Let's start with number 1. Kalyana Miththa sevane. That's the English word. What is that? Let's try and give a translation in English, then I'll explain what that means. Who's a Mitra? Who's a Mitra? A Mitra is a friend. Yahaluwa? Yahaluwa kila kiyan sinhala? Mitra is another word for Yahaluwa. Okay? Kalyana Miththa sevane. What is sevane? Is to associate. So we are talking about associating a friend. But there's another word in front, there's an adjective in front of it. Kalyana Miththa sevane. Not just any Mitra sevane. It's not Mitra sevane. It's Kalyana Miththa sevane. What is Kalyana? Let's try and understand the meaning from the word itself. This is how we've always been trying to understand words. You're looking at the etymology. How do these words come together? Kalyana kina vachane, Sinhalen kina Kalana kina. Kalana. Okay? Ka lana. Ka kiyana mukha. What is ka? I mean, not a car that you drive. I'm not talking about the English car. Kayan kina akura. When you see the letter Kayan in most places, what do you think it refers to? Example, Kakka. Kakka dano nemo. You don't put it and then take it and keep it safely, do you? You flush it down. Remember we discussed the word kusala? Ku salaharima. So wherever you see this letter ka, not wherever, most places you see the letter ka. If you want to try and give a meaning through Buddhism, it refers to something that is something you want to try and get rid of. It's bad, it's dirty, in simple terms. It's a defilement. It's something that the Buddha says, get rid of that, remove it. Those are the things you need to get rid of. Okay? So, ka, lana. What is lana? In Sinhala, have you heard of the word ivatalana? Ivatalana kila vachane kahal thina. Ivata kiyane outside. Lanama kiyane to dispose. So, ka lana kiyane mokada dena? Kata de. Ya mana kata. Ek nath kayana nathi. Ka ata kata. Ata kiyane mokada? To have. Ati nati. What make a adda? Kilana neda. Amma bad bedala dila. Make a adda do kilana. Again, is this enough? Right? So to have is atta in Sinhala. Nata is not to have. Na atta. Okay? So there are ka atta kina kiyan mokada? Katane. Nda kada vachana hadila tine vidhi ho. Nikan neme vachana hadila. These words don't come just out of nowhere. As a young child, I always question myself. Why do words form? Why is a cat called a cat? Why do you not call it a dog? In Sinhala, why is a pusa called a pusa, or a balala called a balala? Why is a haraka called a haraka? A cow. There must be a reason for that. When I asked this question from my adults, they said it's just the way it is. Nothing is ever the way it is just because. Today I understand that. Okay? So, ka atha is kata. Ka is dirt that you want to dispose of. So, ka lana means to dispose of the bad stuff, the dirt. So then who is a Kalyana Mitra? Who is a Kalyana Mitra? Kalyana Mitra. Who is that? What do you think that is? Absolutely. To do what? Kalyana. Right? So someone that you associate, and they don't have to be your friend as such. Who do you think is the most supreme Kalyana Mitra that we've ever had? The Lord Buddha. Was he a friend of anybody's? Did the Buddha go, "Ay machan," to anyone? I mean, in conventional sense, someone that you say a friend is someone who goes, "Hi machan, how are you doing? Give me a call once in a while." Did the Buddha ever give a call once in a while to anybody to ask, "Hey, how are you doing? How's it going? What's up?" Right? The Buddha did not have friends as such, but he did associate people. Okay? So, but the Buddha was the most supreme Kalyana Mitra, the most supreme Kalyana Mitra ever. Because he preached the Dhamma to rid your mind of these things that are kata, dirty, bad. That is why Kalyana Mitra Sevanya, associating someone that preaches the Dhamma or helps you do that, is very important to attain Sothapanna. Why? Because they have understood for themselves that the only way to attain Nibbana is this. This is the path to Nibbana. Here's the problem. Here's the cause of the problem. Here's the solution to it, and here's how I get to the solution. So they understand that raga, dvesha, moha, desire or lust, anger or aversion, and delusion. These are the three things that keep me bound to this samsara. Raga, dvesha, moha in another way is the 10 fetters. The Buddha describes how animals or how beings go through samsara in many different ways to help each of us understand it in a slightly different way. Right? So he talks about the 10 fetters, he talks about raga, dvesha, moha, he talks about pancha upadana skandha. Right? So all of these things, he talks about dasa kusala. All of these things, you will find the relationship between these. they are connected. This is why the Buddha's Dhamma is like a network. No matter where you start, you can connect to any other part of the network. It's like your telephone. If you have a telephone that's connected to the worldwide network, you can ring any number in this world, right? As long as you dial the right country code, the right area code, and whether it's a mobile number or a landline number, you dial that number, you can connect to anywhere in this world, wherever there's a landline or a mobile number, right? Like how you ring your friends in Sri Lanka or wherever. So likewise, the Buddha's Dhamma is like a network. In the center of it is this word Anichcha, but everything else is connected to it. And to be connected to it, it should be perfect. Because if there's a drop somewhere, or there's a problem with one of the links, and you can't get through that line. Okay? So, Kalyana Mitra Sevanya, to associate someone that helps you eradicate within your mind raga, dvesha, moha, that is a Kalyana Mitra. So someone who understands the problem, how to eradicate the problem, and here are the steps. And then they help you teach, they help you understand that. So that's why it's important. Okay? Right. So that's Kalyana Mitra. What's the next thing? Saddhamma Shrawanaya. Now, associating someone like that is not good enough. How come? Did everyone that associates the Lord Buddha attain Nibbana? What about, give me an example. Devadatta, exactly. The best example you can think of. Right? So Devadatta was, in fact, a close associate of the Buddha. I mean, when he was a Bodhisattva, when he was Prince Siddhartha, he was probably, Devadatta probably saw him day in, day out, because they were almost in the same kingdom, the same palace, right? But that close association didn't do him any good. In fact, what did it do for him? He'd be a complete opposite. Remember, I said once, next to Jetavana, where the Buddha spent a lot of his time, what was the business that was done next door? Pig slaughtering. So you understand that, Sashi? They used to kill pigs next to this arame. There was an arame in the time of the Lord Buddha, and next door to that was a place where they slaughter pigs. And when someone asked the Buddha, "Oh Lord Buddha, why don't you go and preach that man some Dhamma?" So he stops doing this, this killing animals, so it can stop him from going to hell. The Lord Buddha, what did the Lord Buddha say? I'm doing him a favor by not going and talking to him. If I go and talk to him, through what he's doing now, he's going to go into a certain type of hell. But if I go and talk to him, he's going to go to the worst type of hell. Why? Because he's going to insult me. He's not going to understand what I'm saying. He's just going to talk back at me. He's just going to insult me. And by insulting the Lord Buddha, it's going to be a bigger sin than killing pigs, than killing all the pigs that he has ever killed right now, and he will in the future. Okay? So a Kalyana Mitra, it's like a double-edged sword. You use it for the right thing, you can get so much out of it. Scissors. Scissors are good if you use it properly. What if you use it in the wrong way? If you misuse it? What happens then, Sasha? You can hurt yourself. And? Yeah, you hurt yourself, you can hurt other people as well, right? So if someone had a pair of scissors, you would go and approach them and ask them, "Please, can I use your scissors?" You wouldn't go and try and argue with them, because you don't know what the outcome of that might be. Okay, so it's similar. This is why Kalyana Mitra Sevane, or associating someone that's going to help you do that, is not enough in itself. You need to listen to the Dhamma. Sadharma Shrawanaya kyanne anne. To listen to the Dhamma. So to listen to the Dhamma, they need to be able to preach the Dhamma. Normally, a Kalyana Mitra is someone who has understood the Dhamma for themselves. This is why they are able to preach that Dhamma. Okay? So if you have a Kalyana Mitra, what you need to do is not invite them, "Oh, please take a seat, can I offer you something, or how are things, how's your business?" What a waste of time that is. Because that you can do with any friend. But a Kalyana Mitra, here's someone who's got something so precious to offer you. So should you waste your time just talking, riff-raff, this and this, this and that? No, you should try and get what you need from that person. It's like if you get an appointment with the doctor and you go to see your GP, do you go and just, chit-chat with them? What did you go to your doctor and say, "Hi doctor, how's it going? How's your family? How's your your business? How's this and that? How's work?" No, you just go and get to the problem. I've got a problem, you've got the solution, help me out please. That's how you should associate a Kalyana Mitra. Give them your problem. Not, "I don't have money, can you help me?" I've got a bigger problem that you are able to solve, which is that I'm going through samsara and raga, dvesha, moha is what's taking me. You have found a way to solve that problem, please help me with that. Okay? So we've discussed two factors then. What is the first? The two factors we've discussed so far to help one become a Sothapanna. Listen to the Dhamma and from whom do you listen to the Dhamma? From the Kalyana Mitra. Okay? Third thing. Kshana Sampaththiya. What is Kshana Sampaththiya? In fact, actually, we'll come back to Kshana Sampaththiya in a moment. Let's talk about Yoniso Manasikaraya. What is Yoniso Manasikaraya? Again, when you say big words, don't let that put you off. Say, if you were a young child and you see the word something like, discombobulated. You come across that word before? Discombobulated? It means confused. Well, yeah. You give someone that word and they do get confused. Right? But if you try and break that word up into little bits and pieces and try and understand where that word comes from, how it's formed, then soon enough you understand that. And then you don't have to memorize it. Okay? So, Yoniso Manasikaraya has what it means within the word itself, just like any other word we've been talking about. Okay? So, Yoni, Isa, Mana, Isikara. So there are 4 bits that make up this word. And I'll give you the English translations. Yoni, Isa, Mana, Isikara. What do these things mean? What is Yoni? Yoni is a birthplace. Okay? Now, in biology, in Sinhalese biology, they use the word yonia, which is actually the canal, the birth canal in the woman's body. Okay? So now you see how that relates to what yoni means. It's a birthplace, but we're not talking about the birthplace of like a baby being born. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about how does one become a Sothapanna. So that's got nothing to do with that sense of it, that context. However, I'm giving you this information so that when someone says Yoniso Manasikaraya, that picture comes in my mind. Right, okay, now I know what you're talking about. Okay, so Yoni is birthplace. Yoni Hisa. What is Hisa? That is his. Hisa. Hisa is head. So Hisa Oluwa. The head is the Hisa. Okay. So Hisa is the head. So now we are talking about the birthplace and the head. What is now? Let's try and put some context around it. What is this mean? Yoni Hisa, the head of the birthplace. The head is normally where something starts, or one could say it's the root. Okay, it's the origin of something. So we are talking about the birthplace and the start of that. So where is the start of the birth process? What part of Dhamma have we been talking in the past which says, here's how origination starts and goes through this cycle? Exactly that. Dependent origination. Patichcha Samuppadaya. So Patichcha Samuppadaya talks about, goes through, Jati mokak, what results in Jati? It's Bhava. What results in Bhava? It's Upadana. What results in Upadana? It's Thanha. What results in Thanha? It's Vedana. What results in Vedana? Sparsha. What results in Sparsha? Salayatana. What results in Salayatana? Namarupa. What results in Namarupa? Vijnana. What results in Vijnana? Sankara. What results in Sankara? Avidya. So Avidya is what kicks off this process. That is the head of this. That's the headmaster. You go and kill the king, the entire enemy falls apart. Like that, you won the battle. How do you play chess? What's your aim with chess? How do you win the game? Kill the king. Or even Game of Thrones, you try and kill the king, right? So, even in the process of samsara, if you understand dependent origination is what, dependent origination. Origination doesn't come out of the sky, it doesn't fall from the sky or come, from the soil. It's a dependence that's going on here. There's something that gives rise to that. X gives rise to Y. So if you eradicate X, we no longer have Y. Okay? So if you go back that path, you have avidya, delusion, ignorance. Now that is yoni hisa. That is yoni hisa. The origin of the birthplace. Why? Because once that starts, you end where? Jati. The problem is, jati doesn't stop there. Then you have jara, marana, shoka, parideva, dukkha, domanasa, upayasa. All of the things that you and I suffer. Pain, discomfort, having to associate with people you don't like, right? Anguish, sorrow, grief, and death, ultimately. Well, it doesn't even stop there, and then you have to go through that all over again. So that is Yoni Hisa. Now what is, so we've covered Yoni Hisa, now there is Mana Isikara. What is Mana? Mind. And what is Isikara? No, Isikara is to contemplate. Okay, so we said Yoni, birthplace, Isa, we figured that's the head, which is Avidya. Mana is the mind. Isikara is to contemplate. You understand what contemplate is, Sashi? Okay, to contemplate is to reflect on something, to understand its full meaning, to explore, to study. Okay? So when you contemplate on something, you know, when Sashi is like this, what's happened to me? Someone took my toy. I'm sure you never do that. I used to do that when I was a kid. I know you never do that. That is to contemplate, to try and figure out what's causing this problem. Okay? So, Yoniso Manasikaraya is to reflect your mind, to contemplate your mind on what the cause of the problem is. And that is avidya. Now, how can you get that? If you don't have a Kalyana Miththa who preaches the Dhamma, how do you figure that avidya is the problem? How do you figure that it's delusion that is the problem? You cannot. You know, the Lord Buddha is who told us it's avidya and thanha that keep you going through samsara. Attachment and delusion that keeps you going through samsara. Therefore, eradicate it, get rid of it, understand it, and then treat it. Yeah. So now you see how these things are tying up to how, you know, to become a Sothapanna. Do you see why these are so important to become a Sothapanna? You need to understand the problem. You need to have someone that teaches you that problem. You know, the Kalyana Miththa. You need to listen to the Dhamma. This is what you're doing. You know, either through Skype or online or, you know, sitting in front of someone. Okay? And then you reflect on what's the problem. What is the problem? How, you know, if you were in a classroom studying math or science, this is what you would do. Imagine you're trying to solve a math problem. What would you do? You first listen to the teacher, someone who knows how to solve the problem. They teach you the method. They teach you the technique. They go, right, if you do that bit there, this bit there, that, this and the other, that's how you solve the problem. Now, you don't start working on it the moment they start opening their mouth and say, right, you have a problem, here's how you solve it. All right, I get it. What happens then? No, you haven't got the message yet. You start working on it and sometimes you end up with the wrong answer. This is why first you need to understand what is being taught. First you need to understand what is the problem, what causes the problem, how do you solve that problem, and then what are the steps to solve the problem. Right? Once you understand that, then you get to work. And that is what you do after you become a Sothapanna. You get to work. So many, you know, individuals like yourselves, when you go and join the Arahant later on, this is what you will do. You will get to work. Becoming a Sothapanna is just understanding what the problem is and how do you solve it. That's your lecture. Understood? Now you have some homework. Your homework is what happens after that. Right. So, Kalyana Miththa Sevane, Saddhamma Shravane, Yoniso Manasikaraya are the three things we've talked about so far. There are two more. Dhamma, Anudhamma, Prathipadawa. Dhamma, Anudhamma, Prathipadawa. That's the singular word. Let's try and see if we can get an English word for it. I didn't think of any before I started talking to you, but we'll try and work together and try and figure something out. Okay? What is Dhamma? So it's Dhamma. So the word is Dhamma, Anudhamma, Prathipadawa. So if you break that up into bits, you have Dhamma, Anudhamma, Prathipadawa. What does that mean? What is Dhamma? The Buddha's teachings, actually, exactly that. What is the Buddha's teaching? What did the Buddha say? So, no, your Dhammang Passati, so Mang Passati. I told you this last week, if you remember. So your Dhammang Passati, so Mang Passati. What does that mean? Exactly that. To see me, you've got to see the Dhamma. Okay? And then the Buddha says something else. Now, I didn't say this last week, but I'll tell it to you today. Yo Patichcha Samuppadaya Passati, so Dhammam Passati. Now what does that mean? So if so Dhammam Passati, yo Mang Passati now. To see me, you have to see the Dhamma, or one who sees the Dhamma sees me. Then what do you think the meaning of yo Patichcha Samuppadaya Passati, so Dhammam Passati? Exactly that, yes. To see the Dhamma, you have to see Patichcha Samuppadaya. So, if X gives you Y and Y gives you Z, what do you get when you get X? You get X, you get Z. Why? X gives you Y, Y gives you Z. So X gives you Z, right? X gives you, in fact, both Y and Z. So if you see Patichcha Samuppadaya, what do you see? The Buddha. This is why understanding dependent origination is so important. Patichcha Samuppadaya is so important. And it's not to try and understand the universe. It's not to try and understand how the stars were formed, or the heavens were formed, or how the hells were formed, although you will eventually, if you study it in that level of detail. But it is to understand everything there is in the world. That is your world. Remember, Sashi, the first conversation we had many months ago, probably a year or two ago, and I asked you, what do you need to do to become an Arahant? And you said, to understand the world. And that is so true. But your world is what you are attached to. It's not everything else. You know how we say, you know how sometimes when people go crazy, right? When they talk nonsense. And you go, he lives in a world of his own. You know, he doesn't understand anything. You just say he lives in a world of his own. Or say, you know, how some young children, they get so addicted to some things, whether that's a toy, or a movie, or a cartoon, or a book. Right? That's their world. Why do we say that? Because that's what they're holding on to. That's what they're attached to, right? They don't interact with the rest of the world. If you have 24 hours in the day, 23 and a half hours of that will be with whatever they're doing. Half an hour they'll try and eat and sleep and go to the toilet as well. All of that in half an hour. Everything else, all the rest of the day will be doing what they're so attached to. That's when someone has a separate world that they live in. They've created for them. Have you heard of the word virtual reality? In fact, there are games actually, and you'll be thankful that you haven't come across this. Okay, there are games where you can actually live a virtual life. So when people get bored of living life with their friends and family, they go online and create a new world for themselves. They take on a different personality. And then, and a man can pretend to be a woman. And they do all the things that they do in a world, but in a virtual world. I've never played one of these games, but I've read about it. But see, so what happens? We're defining what someone's world is. What someone's world is, what they're attached to. And therefore, Patichcha Samuppadaya is what we need to use to understand why we are attached to this. To the world that we live in. The world that we live in is, I'm not talking about the physical world. I'm talking about the world that keeps us in this samsara. You see the difference? Okay, good. Okay. So you were saying Dhamma Anudhamma Prathipadawa, right? So if the Buddha says, Yo Patichcha Samuppadaya Passati, so Dhammam Passati, and then we have to become a Sothapanna, you need to understand, you need to have Dhamma Anudhamma Prathipadawa. What do you think Dhamma there refers to? Your Patichcha Samuppadaya Passati, so Dhammam Passati. To see the Dhamma, you need to see what? Patichcha Samuppadaya. And then if I tell you Dhamma Anudhamma Prathipadawa, wherever you see the word Dhamma, what do you think we are talking about? Patichcha Samuppadaya. Exactly. So Dhamma, when we talk about the Buddha's Dhamma, and that's what Sashi said before, you need to understand the Buddha's Dhamma. The Buddha's Dhamma is not necessarily, he has given us a lot of Dhamma, but in the context of trying to attain Nibbana, we are talking about Patichcha Samuppadaya. Okay? So Dhamma, Anudhamma. What is Anudhamma? yamak anuva karanawa kiyane mokada? What does that mean? If you're, I want to try and get the meaning from yourself, so I don't want to try and give the English word just like that. Can you think of what that is? So the reason I try and give you an English, a singular word, and try and get you to think what, or at least try and figure out what the English word is because I want you to try and become more fluent in English. My objective is not to continue preaching in English forever and ever and ever. I only want to do this for as long as there's a need for you to have preachings in English. I mean, I'd rather go and listen to an English. I mean, I think right now, there's another Deshana by Deshakutuma in Sri Lanka in Sinhala. I'm not listening to that, but I'm helping you here. So, but I'll continue doing this for as long as you can understand Sinhala and get the full meaning of it. But this is why I try and encourage you. I'll give you the Sinhala word and try and think what the English word might be. Okay? So, what is Anudhamma? So, yamak anuva karanawa kiyanne to do something in accordance with, to do something according to. Okay? So, if Dhamma is Patichcha Samuppadaya, what is it that happens according to Dhamma, to Patichcha Samuppadaya? So, let me put it this way. You have a problem. You understood the cause of the problem, which is, I mean, if you took, let's take a real life example. Okay? Let's say your problem is that let's say your problem is that you want to pass a certain exam at school. Okay, so you have your class test and you want to pass that class test. Okay, so that is your problem. So then you understand what is the cause for this problem. So the cause for this problem is that I need to to pass this exam, I need to have a certain amount of knowledge, so I can sit the paper. I need to practice how you answer a question. Just because you have the knowledge, you can't go and answer. You can't go and sit the paper. This is why people do practice tests, right? How do you time yourself? I mean, it's a science. How do you time yourself? How do you, if you can give a short answer, then you try and avoid giving long answers because that takes up time, right? So you try and practice the art of doing it. Okay. Then you figure out, okay, so the solution to this problem is to try and acquire knowledge, to try and gain that information, to try and understand how you do it, and then you go and practice it. You either get it from a teacher, you read a book, or watch a program or something that teaches you this is how you sit a test. So now when you are practicing that, what are you doing? What you're doing is you're putting into practice what you've learned. As this is how you solve the problem. Now you're putting it into practice. That's the same thing with Dhamma, Anudhamma, Prathipadawa. Dhamma is Patichcha Samuppadaya. Anudhamma is putting into practice what Patichcha Samuppadaya teaches you. What does Patichcha Samuppadaya teach you? Dukkha Samudaya. I mean, that is what Patichcha Samuppadaya teaches you. Dukkha is, Jati Paccaya, Jara, Marana, Shoka, Parideva, Dukkha, Domanasa. There's your problem. Dukkha Hetuva, you work your way back. Avidya, delusion, ignorance. Okay? Avidya Thanha, you work your way back, you find the cause of the problem. Then, what is the solution? To eradicate this avidya, to eradicate jati, to eradicate bhava, to eradicate tanha. And how do you do that? You practice the Arya Ashtangika Marga, the Noble Eightfold Path in English. And what that helps you do is you chips away at the Patichcha Samuppadaya process. You chip away at avidya, you chip away at tanha. Today's discussion is actually quite deep, I think. It's not an elementary discussion, I'm afraid. It must be your good fortune, maybe, for some of you, that this is coming. I didn't think of talking about Patichcha Samuppadaya today. All I wanted to teach you was how does one become Sothapanna, because we are continuing previous discussion. But I think maybe perhaps there are people listening in online who want to try and understand this in a little bit more detail. It's probably for their merit. Okay. Anyway, so you understand what the problem is. This is this Patichcha Samuppadaya. So Jati, Jara, Marana. That is the problem. Okay. The cause for this problem is this Patichcha Samuppadaya process, which starts at Avidya. To stop that problem, then you need to eradicate Avidya. And then how do you do that? You need to listen to the Dhamma that helps you do that. And the Dhamma teaches you the Arya Ashtangika Marga. Samma Ditti, Samma Sankappa, Samma Vacha, Samma Kammanta, Samma Ajiva, Samma Vayama, Samma Sati, Samma Samadhi. Samma. We'll come to that maybe another time. Otherwise I'm bringing in too much here and then you might get a little bit confused. So, Dhamma, Anudhamma, Prathipadawa. Prathipadawa is, what's a good word for Prathipadawa? Prathipadawa is, so Prathipadawa is actually putting something into practice, but yeah, it's actually that. It's actually that. Putting something into practice. It's the process. Prathipadawa is the process. Following. Okay? It's the practice of something. So Dhamma, Anudhamma, Prathipadawa. If you understand Patichcha Samuppadaya, you then figure out, okay, according to Patichcha Samuppadaya, I can now see suffering, the cause for suffering, the cessation of suffering, and the path to cessation of suffering. And then now you start practicing that. Learning something in itself is not enough. Knowledge is not power. Knowledge put into action is power. So then to become a Sothapanna, what do you need to do then? You associate someone that can teach you the Kalyana Dhamma. Remember what is Kalyana? How do you get rid of the dirt that's in your mind? And what's the dirt that's in your mind? Raga, Dvesha, Moha. Okay? Kalyana Miththa Sevane, associating a Kalyana Miththa, listening to the Dhamma, Dhamma Anudhamma Prathipadawa, so Yoniso Manasikaraya, and we talked about that, Dhamma Anudhamma Prathipadawa, which is what we try to describe now. So there's 4 there. And then there's one more thing. Kshana Sampaththiya. What is Kshana Sampaththiya? What is a Kshana? Kshana. Kshana is a moment. A moment. A flash. Just a moment. Like a moment. How long does it take you to blink? How long does it take you to blink, Sasha? 1 second. 1 moment, right? Just one moment like that. That's how long it takes to blink. What is Sampaththiya? Sampath. Have you heard of anyone called Sampath? Do you know anyone called Sampath? It's quite a common name in Sri Lanka. Sampath. So Sampath, have you heard of Daru Sampaththiya? So normally people say Daru. What is Daru? Children. Sampaththiya is a treasure. Okay? You ask your parents, I don't know. They might give you a different answer. No, they wouldn't. To have children like you is absolutely a treasure. So, Kshana Sampaththiya, so we are talking about a moment that is a treasure. That is what Kshana Sampaththiya is. What are we talking about here? What moment is a treasure for someone that wants to become a Sothapanna? That's always what you need to be thinking. We are talking about attaining Nibbana. What moment is a treasure for someone that wants to become a Sothapanna? What do you think? The moment that you become a Sothapanna, yes, that is certainly one interpretation of that. Why are we, for someone that is not a Sothapanna, what are some of the reasons why someone has not been able to become a Sothapanna? Some of the reasons. Think about, okay, let's put it this way. How long have you been listening to this Dhamma? 1 or 2 years? How long have you been alive? How long have you been alive, sir? 8 years. Okay. You, January? 15. Question? Vaishali? Okay. So, of that time, you've listened to the Dhamma for about 2 years, maybe a little bit less than 1. Right? So, you've had the treasure that is this Dhamma for that period of time, in this lifetime. Now, how long have you been in Samsara? I can't give an answer to that. It's many billions of eons. Now, if someone's goal is to attain Nibbana, and that puts a stop to this endless rebirth cycle that they've been coming along throughout Samsara, okay, that puts a stop to it. And they see that this is the treasure, this is the most precious gift, that is this Dhamma that's going to help me do that. That moment, or the time that they've had to listen to this Dhamma, to practice this Dhamma, to associate a Kalyana Miththa, the things that we just talked about. How much of a time do you think that time is in comparison to how long you've been in Samsara? It's a split moment. It's a very tiny moment. It's just like it's quicker than the time it takes to blink. Because if we don't get this done now, then we have this. I mean, you think about how long you're going to be alive in this birth. Let's say people live to 80, till they're 80. Best case scenario. Nowadays you have dengue and all of these. In Sri Lanka apparently it's quite an issue now. Okay, so with all of these problems that affect your health, then there's wars and all of these issues, right? People's lifespan is about, I think, 70, 75, and you're really lucky. Okay, anything more than that, you're gifted. I think in this day and age. Okay, so to be human, and this is what I always say, right? You are born to a family that practices Buddhism, even in the conventional sense. Right? That's where I come from, right? I practice conventional Buddhism for a very long time, not the traditional Buddhism that helps me attain Nibbana, but the conventional Buddhism. But still, I practiced it. That gave me a foundation. I learned Sinhala, I learned English, the 2 languages that I use today to try and understand and preach the Dhamma. I had the good fortune of not just being born a human being, but also coming across the Buddha's teaching. Now, for all of these things to have lined up, that is a treasure. That is so precious. Because never before in my samsara have I had this moment. Otherwise I would have done that then, but I didn't. Whatever reason, whatever course, whatever, if there were 10 things that I needed to have lined up to become a Sothapanna or to attain a Margaphala, something was missing back then. Either I was, born a human being. I had every treasure, every kind of luxury that I could imagine, but I didn't have the Buddha's Dhamma. I'm not going to become a Sothapanna. I'm not going to understand the path of Nibbana. Or I couldn't hear. I was deaf. I'm not going to become a Sothapanna because I can't listen to the Dhamma. I can't, or say, I couldn't. I could still hear things, but I didn't have the mental capacity to process what I'm listening to. Even today we have people like that who are mentally incapacitated, right? Then you can't become a Sothapanna. What if all you had to do, to survive, you had to work really, really hard, that you didn't have the time to come and sit down like this and to listen to the Dhamma? You still wouldn't become a Sothapanna. Why? Because you need to listen to the Dhamma. Remember the few things we said. Kalyana Miththa Sevana. If you hadn't come across a Kalyana Miththa, which is the same as me not having come across a Buddha Dhamma, I wouldn't become a Sothapanna. If Sadharma Shrawanaya, if I didn't get to hear the Dhamma, I wouldn't become a Sothapanna. I mean, Rahatun Vanse, they come into this world, or they come before they become Rahatan Vanse, they become Rahatan Vanse, then they, take themselves away from society. They go away, they hide themselves in forests and places like that, in Aranyas, where no one knows where they are, they can't go and find them, because to them, living in the world like this is pointless, and it's just painful. So if that did happen, and even if there was a Rahatan Vanse, how would I know? I couldn't go and listen to the Dhamma. So I'm so fortunate now, I can't begin to explain how fortunate I am. And that treasure I have for this moment. And what I mean by moment is not that moment. I mean, when you take Samsara as an endless cycle that I've been on, if I've been there for billion years, this moment that I have is so precious. But there's nothing you need to do about it. Of the 5 things we've just talked about, Kalyana Miththa Sevana, you need to try and do that. You need to try and spend time with Kalyana Mithras so that they can preach the Dhamma to you, which is number 2, Saddhamma Shravanaya, okay? Yoniso Manasikaraya. That's something you need to do. You need to understand what is being taught to you, put that teaching into practice, which is the Patichcha Samuppadaya process. I mean, you don't need to go into deep detail about, okay, I can't remember Patichcha Samuppadaya. Oh my God, am I never going to be able to become a Sothapanna? No, that's not the case. You don't need to be able to remember Patichcha Samuppadaya to become a Sothapanna. What you need to understand is what is the cause of this problem, and you need to be able to see that, how that relates to the cause of the problem. If you think the reason that you're suffering today is because you don't have money or a house or people that love you, if you think that's the reason for your problem, you are not a Sothapanna. Because that is just plastering. That's what we've always been doing. When I couldn't feed myself, I went and worked hard and earned some money so I could come and cook a meal. When I felt that I couldn't be by myself, I went and got myself, a pet to keep me company, or a partner to keep me company. That is just plastering the problem. That the problem keeps coming back. But if the day you understand that I am sick and tired of just, treating these problems at the surface, superficial treatments are pointless. I've been doing this for so long. How much longer am I going to do this? I need to treat the cause, the root of this problem. Then you begin to ask yourself, how do I do that? You look for a teacher. You find the Lord Buddha or someone that has listened to the Dhamma from the Lord Buddha or through his tradition. Then you find, okay, it's my delusion that, bringing to myself the things that I think bring me pleasure, attaching myself to those things, is what gives me pain in the first place. Is what causes me disappointment in the first place. Setting expectations on things that are just conditional, causality, things that are conditioned by causes. When the causes change, the effect changes. The concept of Anichcha. But if I then go and attach myself to that, I'm setting myself up for disappointment. It's that has given me pain and suffering throughout samsara. Once you understand that, then you come to the realization, right, I need to stop that. I mean, this is pointless. Why am I doing this? What's the point? It's like if you were, imagine you were really, if you were thirsty. I think I've given this example before. You are stranded on a boat in the sea, and you are thirsty. What would you do, Sachin? That's what I've been doing myself throughout samsara. Whenever I felt thirst, I drank seawater because I thought that was going to cure me. But that's the worst thing I could do. But I did that. I did that for so long. I drank seawater whenever I felt I was thirsty. Seawater is full of salt, right? Have you had seawater in your mouth? When you're playing on the beach or playing in the water, right? What does it taste? It's salty, right? Yeah. So there are a lot of minerals in seawater. But these salts that are dissolved in seawater dehydrate your body. Whatever water you have in your body, it takes that out of the body. So you become even more thirsty. Do you see the problem with that? If you're thirsty and you take something into you that makes you even more thirsty, are you ever going to fix the problem? No, you're just going to keep becoming even more thirsty. The moment, when you take that water in your mouth and you drink it, you think, oh, I'm okay now. I don't feel the thirst because my tongue is now wet. It's my dry tongue that's making me feel like I'm thirsty, and the insides of my mouth that's dry, that's making me feel thirsty. So I drink as much seawater as I can. As soon as it goes into my body and starts going through my system, it starts dehydrating my body. From the vessels, from the blood, it starts pulling the water out of the blood. And when that happens, my body loses even more water. And then I become even more thirsty. And then finally I just die of dehydration. This is why sometimes what people actually do is if they're ever stranded, they take with them a water purifier. And sometimes they put in seawater and that comes out, having removed all the salts, or sometimes they put in their urine. Too. They put the urine into it, it cleans it, removes any dirt from it, and then it gives you it in a way that you can drink it. Because actually there's a lot of water in urine as well. That's better than drinking seawater. But this is what I've been doing throughout samsara. Whenever I felt thirsty, I drank seawater. Whenever I thought, okay, I'm hungry, I thought, right, let me go and do a job. And I thought, actually, my job is giving me some money. And now I'm sick and tired of eating rice and parittu every day. I want to eat something else now. I want to have a pizza. But I can't eat pizza on the money I'm getting today. I need to go and do a bigger job. I need to go and do a better job, a job that pays me a little bit more money. So what did I do? I worked for 8 hours, now I'm working for 10 hours. I work harder to earn more money. Why? To feed my hunger, to quench my thirst. What am I doing though? I'm doing the things that's going to make me even more hungry, which is working longer, to treat my hunger. That's bonkers. Is it not? Instead of treating the problem, instead of solving this problem once and for all, I just go plastering it, and that's what I've been doing throughout samsara. But once you understand, I'm now tired of this, now I see what the root cause of this problem is, and that root cause is I am born a human being, or I am born full stop. Once I have this body, now I need to sustain it. When my body feels, when my tummy feels it's hungry, it starts rumbling inside my tummy and says, give me food. If food was something that only gave me pleasure, I should be able to eat food just when I want to. If I had food just for pleasure. But no, I have to give this body food whenever it needs it. Then it can't be for pleasure. Right, let me put it this way. Imagine you have new neighbors. Okay? Some new neighbors have moved in next door, and your mother or your father comes to you and says, they've got kids as well. Go and knock on their door, say hello, and see if they want something. So you walk, all of you walk, you go outside, you go at your neighbors, knocks on the door, and then this boy comes up. He's very, it's very scruffy. You don't like the look of it. He's very rude as well. He goes, "Oi, what?" Right? You go, "Oh, hi, we are next door. Welcome to the neighborhood. We just came round to say hello and see if you want anything." "Now I'm alright. Go away. I don't like you." And what do you think? You think, hang on a second. Nobody came round to say hello. Why are you treating me like this? So then you go back home, okay? But your parents say, no, it's okay, that's fine. Just go and get to them, know them a little bit more. Play with them. How do you feel about doing that now? You won't want to do that. Yeah, no, I don't. But your parents are now forcing you to do it. Forcing in the sense, no, you have to do it. I mean, that's the dumb thing. You have to go and talk to them. Now, what if they were really nice? Then, you would want to go and play with them because you like them. You would want to go and spend time with them because you like them. But now you're having to do it because someone's forcing you to do it. If you could go and spend time with them whenever you wanted to, and you enjoyed it, that's something you do for pleasure. But if you're having to go and do that because someone's forcing you to do it, that's not something you do for pleasure. And treating yourself with food, and I use the word treating very consciously. You treat yourself with food. You treat yourself with medicine, you treat yourself with food. You know how sometimes, I can't fault this because this is how people normally think, okay? You know how when we have, and usually Sri Lankans, we are very famous for this, hospitality. It's a very important part of our culture, and there's nothing wrong with that, okay? You know how when we want to eat something, we're always conscious about the other person. If you have visitors, if you have someone else in the vicinity, you always offer them food, right? You go, can I give you something? And that's perfectly fine because they may be hungry as well and you offer it to them. What about when you're having medicine? Do you do that? If you're having paracetamol because you have a headache, do you go to the person and say, I'm having some paracetamol, would you like some as well? Or if you're taking something to treat a runny nose or something like that, or a cough, would you go and ask them, would you like some? Or maybe, head, let's say runny nose or a cough you can see they don't have those symptoms. What about a headache though? Just because you are taking a paracetamol, you don't go and ask the other person, would you like some paracetamol? No, if they want it, they'll ask for it. But we treat food in a very different way. We think food is something that gives us pleasure and therefore we need to share it out with other people. Now, I'm not trying to say you shouldn't share food. Just understand, take this very carefully, okay? Think about what we do before we do it. It's an important part of our culture that when we have food, we share that out with people. And, you shouldn't change that. But think about what you're doing there. Why do people feel awkward to eat in someone else's presence? Now, it may be they're hungry, then you can offer it to them. But sometimes, even when they're not hungry, sometimes people feel awkward about it. Well, if you're treating yourself, why should you feel awkward about that? When that person needs that treatment, they'll ask for it. Or if you ask them, do you need treatment? That's how you should be offering food, really. Would you like some treatment? Are you in pain? Are you suffering? And then you offer them food. Now, don't go and practice this, okay? Because people will think something's wrong with you. But just think, because you are people that listen to this Dhamma, I'm just giving you food for thought. Not just food for the body, food for thought. So anyway, so we were talking about how important this moment is, right? So now let's just quickly summarize. What are the 5 things that someone needs to attain Sothapanna? You need what first? A teacher. Kalyana Miththa Sevana. Okay? And we understood the true meaning of Kalyana Miththa, and it's not just any old friend. It's the friend that teaches you the Dhamma. Now, what if someone came and taught you Dhamma and he said, no, I'm teaching you Dhamma. However, what you need to do is go and work harder. Go and do better jobs. Buy another house. That's how you can be happy. Now, I've got 5 houses. I want to buy another house. That's going to make me really happy. That is not Kalyana Miththa. That might be a Mitra. In fact, I remember I've told you in the past, right? I used to go to the gym, put my headsets on, and I used to listen to motivational speakers all day long on my way to work on the tube. I just plug my earphones in and I used to listen to motivational speakers. They used to say, work as hard as you can, buy another house, invest in this, invest in that. To survive in this world, very good advice. I couldn't fault them for that. But if what we want to do is Kalyana, That is not the friend that I need. For that, I need the Buddha, or someone who's on the path to becoming a Buddha. Am I talking about a Samma Sambuddha? No, I'm talking about an Arahant Buddha. Or it could be a Patichcha Buddha. A Patichcha Buddha obviously you wouldn't know, most likely. And we are all on that journey. So once you have understood this Dhamma, you can be a Kalyana Miththa to somebody else. Can you not? Does a Kalyana Miththa have to be someone who's of a certain age, who's mature, who's got grey hairs on them? No, it could be anybody. As long as you understand this Dhamma and you're teaching someone else to do the same, you ask them the question, what is the meaning of going through samsara? Let's try and cure the root cause of this problem. I'm going to try and help you to stop plastering this problem. I'm going to try and help you treat the root cause of this problem. You are then a Kalyana Miththa. Can you not be that to someone, Sashi? You can. Yeah. As long as you understand this Dhamma and you then help other people to understand it, you are a Kalyana Miththa. Okay? So, just having the presence of a Kalyana Miththa is not good enough. You need to listen to their Dhamma. Sat Dhamma Shravane Kyaneka. And remember again, Sat Dhamma Shravane. What is Shravane? To listen. Shravane is listen. Have you heard of the word Shravaka? Shravaka is the word, is a word that we use for people that listen. So what is Buddha Shravaka? Buddha Shravaka is someone who listens to the Buddha or his teaching. Well, actually the Buddha's teaching. I mean, if the Buddha said, can I have a glass of water please? That's not necessarily a Buddha Shravaka. Buddha Shravaka is someone who listens to the Buddha's Dhamma. Okay? So become a Buddha Shravaka. You are that already. Continue doing that. Because these are the things that will help you become a Sothapanna. Okay? Kalyana Miththa Sevane, Saddhamma Shravane, Yoniso Manasikaraya. We talked about Yoniso Manasikaraya in a lot of detail. But to keep it simple, what you need to do is to listen to that Dhamma, continuously think about it. This is the homework I gave you last week. What was the homework I gave you last week? And? Yes, that's right, yeah. So if you feel yourself attached to something, if you think something makes you happy, in a material sense, the homework I gave you was, think a little bit more about it, analyze it. Why is it that this thing makes me happy? Is it because happiness is in that object? Or is it because happiness is something I create in my own mind, and for that I use that object? Because if happiness is in that object could never make you bored. Remember we said watch the same episode of Simpsons? How many times can you watch the same episode of Simpsons? Once? Maybe twice. Exactly. Any more than that and you go, change the channel please. Can I watch another episode? Why? Because happiness does not exist within that episode of Simpsons. Well then where does it exist? We create that in our own minds. For what? A treatment for boredom. A treatment for this yearning for taking in Vedana Sanya. Perception and feeling and perception. When we need feeling and perception, we yearn for it. And we get that through our eyes, through our ears, through our nose, through our tongue, through physical contact. That's why people can't sit in one place and do nothing. They either go like this, shake their legs. Some people bite their fingernails. Some people they just go like that and go like that, or they just tap on the table or whatever. People can't sit doing nothing. Why? They're looking for Vedana Sanya, feeling and perception. Okay? So, Yoniso Manasikaraya, whenever that happens, think about it. Why is this happening? Is it because happiness exists within this? Or am I under some kind of delusion here? Go back to the root of the problem, the head of the problem. Treat it there. Yoni, Isa, Mana, Isika. Yoniso Manasikaraya. Then we talked about Dhamma, Anudhamma, Prathipadawa. To practice the Dhamma. And we said Dhamma was Patichcha Samuppadaya. Remember I said you don't need to understand Patichcha Samuppadaya in great amount of detail. It is just the understanding that the real problem is this, the underlying problem is this, and here's how I solve that problem. Okay? And then Prathipadawa is put it in practice. Knowledge is not power, knowledge put into action is power. And then finally we said it was Kshana Sampaththiya. The treasure that is a moment, that is this moment. This moment being, throughout this samsara, you've come a long way not having had all the things line up for you to become a Sothapanna. Because, you see, as we've said time and time and time again, any kind of being is cause and effect. And by being I don't mean a human being or an animal being. I just mean the state of being something. You know, this laptop is in a state of being a laptop. You know, it's being, you know, it's on, a state of being on, and it's running, right? You and I, we are breathing, we are alive. That's the state of being. Okay. So any kind of being is conditioned. What about a Sothapanna? To become a Sothapanna, you need to have cause and effect. If the effect is Sothapanna, the causes are what we need to study and make sure that we try and do everything we can to line up those causes. Once you've lined up those causes, do you need to do anything else to get that effect? No. This is the beauty of it. If you sow a seed, you give it sunlight, you give it water, you give it some fertilizer, that's all you need to do. The seed will germinate, it will become a plant, it will become a tree. There's nothing else you need to do. You don't need to go and make it a tree. You just give all the right conditions, all the right causes, right? The effect, that just happens. So not what I mean by just happens is not it doesn't come out of somewhere. That is how cause and effect works. You give the right causes, the effect is there. Okay? So becoming a Sothapanna is very much the same. If you give it the right causes, you get the effect. So those are the 5 things that one needs to become a Sothapanna. Now, I want you to answer a question for me. Which of these do you not have? And if you're online, think for yourselves. Which of these do you not have, if any? Do you have the pleasure or the luxury of associating someone that is a Kalyana Miththa? Are you able to listen to the Dhamma? What's stopping you from understanding the root of this problem and the process to try and create it? Isn't that what we talk about when we talk about the Dhamma? What's stopping you from actually putting that into practice? You know, this is what I always say, time spent here is 20%, 80% is what you do outside of here. Putting it into practice. And then finally, do you not have all the right courses lined up to help you become a Sothapanna? If those are the things that need to be lined up to become a Sothapanna, do you not have this? And if that is the case, if anyone put their hand up and said, I can't become a Sothapanna, I would challenge that. Every one of us have all the right conditions to become a Sothapanna. But there are things you need to do. The things you need to do are putting it into practice, reflecting, contemplating on what we discuss, what we teach. It's not just I'm going to listen to some of it today. I'll come back next week. I'll be bothered to reflect on that. That doesn't help. So there are certain things you need to do. But provided you do all of that, you are the seed that needs to become a plant. You're getting all the fertilizer. You're getting the sunlight thrown at you. You're getting watered. Well, the soil is ready. You need to go and plant the seed. Okay? So, what I wanted to try and explain through that discussion was, Each and every one of you should really believe, there is nothing that's stopping me from becoming a Sothapanna. Nothing. Except for whom? Yourself. You're getting everything you need. There's something you need to do. If that bit is missing in the equation, then don't blame anybody else. So practice. Contemplate on what we talk about, the things we discuss. Think about it. How does it relate to your personal lives? Remember, I've always said, you don't attain Arahathood or Sakurdagami, Anagami, or even Sothapanna by thinking about other people's lives, by trying to apply this Dhamma to other people's lives. No, you do that by applying it to your life. You're the master of your life. No one can say, no, that's not how you live your life. No, what do you mean? No, I live my life. How can you teach me about my life? I'm the expert in it. So here we talk about the theory. Putting it into practice, the practicals, is something you need to do. And for that, you need your own lives for that, which you have. So practice it. Okay? So at the start, I was talking about mental samadhi. So in fact, at the start, when you guys weren't here, I said, if you're connected online, then make sure you put yourselves on mute so it doesn't interrupt someone's mental samadhi. And then I said, I'll explain to you why I say that. Okay? And also even here, if you sat down in front of someone listening to the Dhamma, it's important that you try your level best to cause minimal disruption to anybody else. And why is that? It's because, think about the things that we just talked about to become a Sothapanna. You become a Sothapanna while you are listening to the Dhamma. So practicing, yes, you do that outside. But the moment one becomes a Sothapanna, that moment is while you are actually listening to the Dhamma. While a live Dhamma is in progress. So what are the things that needs, what is instruction? You need to be putting that into practice. You need to be, in your mind, every time you hear something, oh, how does that relate to my life? This, that, and the other. All of these things, your mind is busy. You're taking what I'm saying through your ears and constantly putting that information into your mind and think, oh, how does that, actually that makes sense. Actually, no, hang on, that bit doesn't make sense. Question. I have a question. Can I please ask a question? Yes. What's the question? We discuss that. Give you an answer. All right, okay, now that bit is clear. How do you know what the barriers are, where the gaps are, if you don't put it into practice? If you don't actually work on some sums, I teach you how to do calculus. You don't practice it. How do you know where the gaps are in your knowledge, in your understanding? Or multiplication, or addition. I can teach you how to do it, but you need to go and put it into practice. That's when you know, actually, I've got a problem here. Or I ask you to do an experiment. Do an experiment to show that plants breathe, for instance. And then you go and do an experiment. But if I teach you how to do the experiment, you'll try and remember it. But sometimes when you actually, either bring a plant in, cover it with something, however you do that experiment. If you don't actually do it yourself, you're not going to find out where there's a gap in your knowledge. You understand what I'm saying? But that you do while you're listening to the Dhamma. So when you have someone interrupt you, whether that's through noise, or someone's just being restless, they just keep coming and going. It's very easy because we still have defilements within our mind. Our mind is constantly, remember, our minds are constantly looking for what? Vedana sanya, feeling and perception. So whenever there's something going on, your mind is curious. It's a monkey mind. Your mind is jumping. Forget about this patient. I want to know what that guy's up to. That's what your mind's doing. Because I know what's going on here. Here's a man. He's preaching. He's giving us Dhamma. Okay, fine. I've understood all of that. Understood that. I know what's going on. I have perceived it. I'm feeling it. Now I want something new. I'm restless now. So the mind's always looking for something. And then the moment someone, either stands up or goes to the toilet or a phone rings, yes, now the mind has something else to focus on. The problem is when you keep doing that,
you're taking away time from putting what you're hearing into your personal lives and practicing that at the moment of listening to this. Because practicing this Dhamma is not about physically doing anything, right? It's not physically doing anything. Your mind should be busy. Your mind is applying these concepts to the times you've suffered, the times that you've felt extremely happy. What was it that made me extremely happy? What was it that really made me very sad? What was the cause for that? You're applying that, constantly applying it. And when you do it at home, you have some examples. But the moment you become a Sothapanna is actually when you are listening to the Dhamma. So this is why I say that state of mental samadhi is very important. So try and not take that away from somebody else, because the consequences of that can be quite bad for the person that's doing it, if they do it deliberately, particularly. Okay? Right. Do you have any questions from what we just discussed? Before I move on to the next part, which was I started talking about the fetters and the 3 fetters that are removed when you become a Sothapanna. But before that, from the things that we talked about so far, do you have any questions? If anyone on Skype has any questions, you can just put in the chat box to say I have a question, and then I'll ask them to speak up, possibly. Not tried this before, but perhaps it might work. But try and keep your questions to what we just talked about, so we can continue today's discussion. Because now I want to try and talk about the fetters that I just talked about, and how you understand now what you need to become a Sothapanna. Well, you understand why you need to become a Sothapanna. We've talked about that for many weeks. Now I've told you what are the things that need to line up for you to become a Sothapanna. What are the causes that's going to give you that effect? Cause and effect again, right? And then I'm going to talk to you about what happens when you become a Sothapanna. How are you then detached from this samsara? How do you let go of some of the things? Remember, we always say, don't deliberately let go. Listen to the Dhamma. When you listen to the Dhamma, you will let go naturally. And a good metaphor for that is, imagine you had a wound that was healing, a healing wound, and you had a plaster on it. While it's not cured, while it's not fully healed, before it's fully healed, you try and pull the plaster out. That's going to hurt you even more. It's going to start bleeding, and even the bit that was healing up, that's going to come apart, and it's a fresh wound now again. But once the wound has healed, the plaster will probably fall off, or you're removing it is not going to hurt you. This is why you need to listen to the Dhamma, and then when you understand the Dhamma, you just let go anyway. You don't have to deliberately or kind of let go forcefully. Okay. So if you don't have any questions, let's move on to the second part, which is, what are these 3 fetters? Sath Kaya Dittiya, Chi Ki Ichcha, Seelabbatha Paramasa. I asked you the question at the beginning, how does a Sothapanna differ from a pruthagjana? And that's a very broad question, I get that. So let me put some context to it. Does a Sothapanna commit any sins? What do you think? Yes? Okay. So it is possible, I think the way to express it is this. It is possible for a Sothapanna to commit a sin. Who doesn't commit sins? Arahant. Only an Arahant would never commit a sin. They don't do ping, they don't do pau. Punya papa pahinas is how the Buddha describes an Arahant. Prahina is to eradicate. Okay? Prahane karna can to stop, to eradicate completely. Punya is ping, papa is pau. You stop both of these. Okay? So therefore, anyone before an Arahant, i.e. a Sakurdagami, an Anagami, or an Anagami, a Sakurdagami, and a Sothapanna, well, pruthagjana, no question, they are liable, they have the potential to commit a sin. Okay? However, there's a difference in the way that a Sothapanna might commit a sin to a way that the pruthagjana might commit a sin. What is the difference? What is it? What understanding does a Sothapanna have compared to a pruthagjana? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yes. Anything else you want to add to that? Anyone else? Yeah. So, when a pruthagjana commits a sin, they're thinking either taking someone else's life, you're going to get something that is of a lot of value. People commit sins for, people kill people for very little money these days. They really do. Right? For a few £100, people kill other people. Why? Because they think this money is going to make me really happy. This money is going to give me so much pleasure, when actually they have no understanding what's coming their way. They have no concept of karma pala. The good and the bad you do are going to come and bite you on the back. Remember the story about the goat and the king? You remember? What was the story? Sachi? Mm-hmm. So there was a king that wanted to sacrifice a goat, okay, for some kind of religious whatever, right? He wanted to sacrifice a goat, and then this day the king prepares the ceremony for it. Brings the goat round, and then he's now ready to chop its head off. So the goat at this point looks up at the king, and don't think too much into how the goat might have done this, but just take the meaning of the story, right? The goat starts laughing. Okay, this is why I say don't think about how can a goat laugh. Just take the meaning of the story and how this relates to what I'm talking about, karma pala. Okay, the goat starts laughing, and a little bit later the goat starts crying. So now this king is confused. What's going on here? Why does this animal laugh and then cry? So then the king has a conversation with this goat and asks, why did you cry? And the goat says, "O king, just like you are doing right now, 500 births before, and each of these births I was born a goat. 500 births before, I sacrificed a goat just like you are going to do now. I chopped its head off. And every birth since that I was born a goat, I had to die with someone chopping my head off. I did it once, and I've suffered the consequences of doing that bad karma 500 times. Now do you see how much karma vipaka is coming our way? If you kill an animal once, you are destined to die 500 times in the same way that you killed that animal. Think about how many mosquitoes you might have, without a second thought. Ants. We never think about these things. Why? Because we've never heard of this Dhamma before. This is when you and I were pruthagjana. People, some people still tell me, Apinam pruthagjana, we are still pruthagjana. I tell them, no, have you listened to the Buddhist Dhamma? Do you listen to what we talk about here? Yeah. Then don't call yourself a pruthagjana. You don't go and kill ants, and you don't go and kill animals, you don't go and steal now like you used to. When you didn't listen to this Dhamma, taking some money that belonged to somebody else was, you thought, yeah, I'm just going to take it. I've got more money for me. Tough for him. But once you start listening to Dhamma, you don't do like that. Not just because you know what's coming. It's not just because karma pala. In fact, to an Arya, karma pala, yes, they believe in karma pala. An Arya is what? Someone who's who's on the path to Nibbana. Okay? To an Arya, it's not just because karma pala, but they understand, just like you said there, Shah, what is the essence of this life? How much money is actually going to ever make me happy? I am in this samsara, I am going through so much pain and suffering. No amount of money is going to cure me of that. That poor person there, he's working so hard to earn this money, and he's going through the same pain and suffering in samsara as I am. How can I go and take that money from that man, and make a man or woman, and make them even more, put them into even more of a misery, put them into even more suffering? So, and that is the kind of understanding that an Arya has, someone who has entered this stream, a Sothapanna, or at least if you are in a Sothapanna marga. So you see how to do these Dasa Akusala, or the 10 defiling acts. Pranagata. So what are the 10 defiling acts? What are the Dasa Akusala? So now we are talking about the Anantariya Papakarma. So these are the Anantariya Papakarma, which is shaking the blood of the Buddha, killing your parents, killing an Arahant, causing a schism in the Sangha, and yeah. So let's take those 4 for now. Are the Anantariya Papakarmas. If you do these, no matter how much good you've done, you are going to hell for a very long time. And in fact, once you've committed one of these sins, you will not attain Margapala. You will not attain the Margapala in that birth. No matter even if you listen to Dhamma from the Buddha, because that's a phenomenon. That's the way. That's a principle. It's a fundamental principle. If you commit an Anantariya Papakarma, you will not attain a Margapala after that. Why? Because you are destined now for hell. If a hell didn't exist, one would be created just for you. That's how bad the Anantariya Papakarmas are. Have you heard of King Ajatasattu? So Ajatasattu was a king that associated with Devadatta. This is why you see Kalyana Miththa, associating Kalyana Miththa can be such a good thing. Okay, but equally, or the opposite is also true. If you associate yourself with bad people that teach you that the world is such a good place, go and kill your parents. That's fine. How did Devadatta in fact convince Ajatasattu to go and kill his father? That is the Anantariya Papakarma that Ajatasattu committed. He killed his father. Oh, he created the conditions. So in fact, he imprisoned his father. He starved him in a cell. Okay, I mean, he gave him so much pain. He split the soles of his feet and put salt in it. He subjected his father to so much pain, and ultimately his father died because of all the suffering that he endured. He had to endure. But obviously, Ajatasattu was the reason that, or he was the one who committed that sin, and therefore he committed an Anantariya Papakarma. Now, after the moment of his father's death, he realized what he had done, but by then it was too late. After that, he realized that the Buddha's teaching was the most profound teaching and the biggest, his only salvation. The only salvation, but it wasn't going to be his salvation. Why? Because he had already committed Anantariya Papakarma. So even if he had went and stayed in the Buddha's kutir 24/7, even if he had followed in the steps of the Buddha, listened to every word he said, he would not become a Sothapanna. And the opposite of that is also true. It's a principle. Once you become a Sothapanna, you will never go to hell. Never. You will also not commit anything that will take you to hell. This is why I ask young children these days, right? How can you guarantee to your parents that they're not going to die? from something that you do, you have to become a Sothapanna. There is no other guarantee that you can give them. And Devdutt went to hell. Why? Because he did more than one. He shook the blood of the Buddha. He caused a schism in the. You know what a schism is? A schism is so in Sinhala it's called Sangha Bhedaya. Okay, so Bhedaya is to cause a rift. What do you know what a rift is, Sachin? A rift is to you know what harmony is? What is harmony? Okay, so there is that harmony, and then there's harmony as in peace and harmony. You know what that means? Is when you help people be happy together. I'm not talking about couples. I'm talking about helping people kind of get along with each other. Okay, but if you do that, the opposite of that, as in split people up, go and give them lies about the other person, backstab them, do all of these things so that it causes a schism, then that is an Arahant in the Sangha, between bhikshus, between monks. That is one meaning of Sangha Bhedaya. Okay, there's another meaning, but I'm not going to go there now. But this is one thing that Devdutt committed. He shook the blood of the Buddha. He did that. That's true there already. He is going to be in hell for a very, 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 very long time. But the thing is this: even after he had done all of that, Venerable Ananda used to say, "Oh Lord Buddha, look at that man, and he used to insult Devdutt. Look at that, look at what he's done. What a shame." And the Buddha said, "Don't say that. Don't insult that person. Why? Because one day he's going to become a Pacceka Buddha. He's going to become a Pacceka Buddha. One day. Now that day will be many, 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 many eons. But one day that's going to happen." Now you see, yesterday I was speaking to someone, or was it the day before? And I asked him the question, how do beings attain Nibbana? How do beings stop this rebirth cycle? By attaining Nibbana. And that is either by becoming a Samma Sambuddha, a Pacceka Buddha, or an Arahant Buddha, right? We know that from the Buddha having explained to us how he came through samsara, that he's been to hells, even after becoming a Bodhisattva. How do we know that? He's been born an animal in birth, clearly before he became a Buddha, right? While he was a Bodhisattva, a monkey, an elephant, a deer, right? You just, read about the Pansi Panas Jataka. There are stories about that, okay? So those are hells. Now, imagine you're walking around the road, you see a dog, and you feel like you want to pick up a stone and hit it with it. Is it not possible that dog is one day going to be a Buddha? If our Buddha has been a dog while he was a Bodhisattva, is it not possible that every animal that you see when you go to the zoo, as you walk on the road, like in Sri Lanka, we have lots of stray dogs, right? Stray cows, all kinds of stray animals. People who've never been to Sri Lanka wondering, my God, I never want to go there, but they click there online. But any of those animals could be one day a Buddha. If you knew that, would you ever hurt another animal? But how do people treat animals these days? They're very cruel to animals. I'm not talking about, stop cruelty to animals. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about Nibbana. That's all I talk about. But what I want to think about is, before you pick up a stone to hit an animal, before you kick a dog in the backside, think to yourself, that could be a Samma Sambuddha one day. If you commit that sin, what do you think the consequences can be for yourself? Okay. So anyway, we started talking about the difference between a pruthagjana and a Sothapanna and their mentality. So to a pruthagjana, committing these akusal, these sins, they do it quite willingly, willfully, quite happily, because they feel that they're getting something of great value in return. Whether that is money, power, okay, position, um, wealth, it could be anything, prestige. People commit sins for all sorts of reasons. I mean, think about politicians. I mean, it's okay possibly here, but in some countries, politicians go to take extreme steps to get back into power or to get into power. And sometimes they just kill for the sake of it. As in, if it helps them get into power, they'll go and kill happily, no problem. They're looking for powers, for position in this birth, but what they're getting for themselves, they don't think about what's going to come later on. People live for the day, they forget about what's going to happen next day or the next birth. Right? So, but a Sothapanna, although they may commit a sin, such as, say if you had a child and, say you had a baby, right? A Sothapanna had a baby. Can a Sothapanna have a baby? Can a Sothapanna have a baby? Yes, of course, a Sothapanna can have a baby, that's fine. Remember, Sothapanna is not a wizard or some kind of, celestial being. They're just a normal person like you and me. I mean, you couldn't look at a Sothapanna and say that's a Sothapanna, okay? Because it's just an understanding. A Sothapanna doesn't even walk like an Arahant. They might sing and dance, okay? So you can't judge a Sothapanna, judge someone's state of mind, whether they're a Sothapanna or not, by looking at them. Equally, you can't judge any of the other Marga powers. You can't tell by looking at someone whether someone is an Arahant. It's by speaking to them, looking for their understanding. Can they explain to you what they have understood in a way that makes sense to you? That is what will help you at least make a good guess, an educated guess whether someone is a Sothapanna, or at least have some kind of Marga. Okay? Anyway, so a Sothapanna, if they commit a sin, they are not doing it willingly. So I was talking about a Sothapanna having a baby. Say a Sothapanna had left their baby and they, on the grass, and then, they see a dog coming to attack it, a stray dog. Now a Sothapanna might attack that dog, and it may, that dog might die because as a result of that. But they don't do it happily. They know that this is a sin. I'm committing a sin. This is not good. Oh, how I wish I didn't have to do this. But I need to save my child because I'm attached to it. But they still commit that sin. If, for example, a Sothapanna was very poor, they didn't have money to feed their family, and the kids are crying at home. Okay, they're really hungry at home and they've got nothing to do. A Sothapanna might go and take something that doesn't belong to them to feed their family. Possibly even thinking, one day I want to come and return this to you. I really do. But I'm not taking this so that it helps me become more powerful or helps me grow my wealth or become a richer man or a woman. That's that. Sothapanna would never do it with that sense of mind. So they're doing it unwillingly. Most of the time it's because they have no other choice. But an Arahant would never do that. Okay? So that's the difference between a Sothapanna and a pruthagjana. Okay? So what I was trying to explain to you was what this Sath Kaya Dittiya is. Remember, we are talking about the three fetters. Now, I'm trying to now give you a translation of the word Sath Kaya Dittiya. Sath Kaya Dittiya in English. Sath Kaya Dittiya or Drushti. Sath Kaya Drushti. What is Sat? Sat kiyanne good or meaningful. Sat is, I suppose, the simplest way to put it is it's good. Sat is good. Okay. Kaya. Kaya is what? Kaya is a collection. Collection of what? Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vinyana. The 5 skandhas. Again, to keep it simple, I understand there are quite a few young children listening in as well. So Sath Kaya. If you think about, let's say Kaya is the world, okay, the world that we talked about before, your world, okay, the world that you attach and you're clinging on to. Eka Sathya lagana. To think that that's good. Drushti is the vision. So, if I then try and give that in one sentence, it's the vision, it's the view, it's the perspective that this world is such a good place. Existence in this world is such a good place. To collect all of these things that they think is going to give them pleasure is such a good thing to do. Whereas a Sothapanna, as you said before, Shrawanaya, it's meaningless. There's no essence in it. There's no essence in this world. There's nothing to gain out of this world. This is why you try and go into Nibbana. There's nothing that actually gives you happiness. Because happiness is something we create in our own minds. It's that moment when you relieve yourself from pain that we call comfort. I mean, what is comfort? Comfort is when you relieve yourself from discomfort. Is there any other kind of comfort? Think about the cushion that you're sat on now, or the sofa. Why do you keep shuffling yourself every once in a while? If comfort exists in the material that it's made out of, or in the way that it's constructed, you should never have to move yourself. Oh, I feel so good. And then you can just stay there forever and ever and ever. But no. You have to adjust yourself. You have to move yourself about. Why? Because after a while you start feeling discomfort. And then once you move yourself a little bit, it feels good again, does it not? Why? Because you've relieved yourself from discomfort. What about food? Why do you take food? We talked about this before. It's a treatment. A treatment for what? A treatment for a discomfort. What is the discomfort? Hunger. So when you relieve yourself from the discomfort of hunger, you feel the comfort of having food in your stomach. But what if you keep doing that? You keep putting food in. Then you become full. You can't eat anymore now. And you still keep feeding. Force feeding. Have you heard of force feeding? You know, they do it to chickens and other animals. They force feed animals so that they become really fat. The animal can't eat anymore. Its tummy is full, but they'll feed it all the way until there's food all the way up the esophagus, your canal that takes the food into your tummy, all the way up to your mouth. Just enough for you to breathe, for the animal to breathe, and they force feed animals. People don't realize that the sins that they commit, what they're setting themselves up for, they have no idea. Why? They're doing this so that the animal is then, it's force fed, so the animal's body processes this food and it becomes stout. You get more meat out of the animal when you do that. You see what people do? Now you see the difference between a Sothapanna and a pruthagjana? Do you think a Sothapanna would ever do something like that? Never. It's not, like I said, a Sothapanna would only do something if they had no option. If there was no choice about it. If there was, there's always a choice with something, but they would do it very unwillingly. Something like force feeding an animal. No one does that unwillingly. You do it because you want more meat out of that animal, right? You can get more money out of that. This is why farmers do that. You force feed the animal, it grows into, it puts on more flesh than a normal animal would. Then you sell it, you get more money out of it. Now what have you just done? You've not only killed an animal for money, but you've also given it so much discomfort throughout its lifetime. How much bad karma do you think that's going to get? If that goat suffered for 500 births just because it chopped the head off of another goat, what about force feeding an animal and then chopping its head off? what do you think that's going to do for the next 500 births for that person? And do you think a farmer just kills one chicken? And if you are force feeding them just one animal? People don't think about the consequences. Why? Well, most of the time people don't listen to this Dhamma. They don't have the Kshana Sampaththiya. They don't have the treasure of this moment, that is to listen to the Dhamma. They don't have the Kalyana Miththa Sevana. They don't have the Dhamma Shrawanaya. But you do. This is why you need to get this done now, right now, before you wait until for your next birth. Some people tell me, I've suffered all my life, really, I really have. Either because of my children, they've not treated me properly, or I've had a lot of money and then all of that went into waste, right? I've lost everything I have. Next birth, I want to have a good life. In my next birth, I want to have a good life. And then I'll go and attain Nibbana. People, I swear to you, people have told this to me in my face. And then what do I say? All the best. Wish you luck. You try and explain to them once, twice, they don't get it. Wish them all the best. Okay, I hope that works out for you. For every good karma you do, how many times you think you do bad karmas in a day? I'll remind, especially for people that are connected on Skype, because I know I've told this to you many times before, right? And I'll remind, I wanted to say this last week and I forgot. But today, again, might be the good fortune of everyone that's connected online. You, being young people particularly, that listen to this Dhamma, you listen to this Dhamma because your parents have directed you this way. Your parents have directed you this way because they have listened to this Dhamma, which means they are Aryas. So you are constantly in the presence of Aryas. Are you with me so far? Yes? You are constantly in the presence of Aryas, whether that's your siblings, your parents. Now, if I was associating people that weren't Aryas, say imagine I rented out a shared accommodation, right? I shared a flat with other people. None of the other people listened to Dhamma. Only I listened to Dhamma. And we constantly kept insulting each other, shouting at each other, complaining, right? If I did with that with other people, and I'm listening to Dhamma, they're not. Every time they say something bad to me, or they insult me, they fall into the sin that they're committing is called Arya Upawada. Because I'm an Arya and they're insulting me. But if I do the opposite, it's not Arya Upawada, I'm insulting a human being, yes. That's not to say that doesn't bring bad karma, but they're not an Arya. Now think about yourselves for a moment. You are in the presence of Aryas almost 24/7. Especially for young children connected online, I'm saying this. So before you speak up to your parents, before you say something bad to them, something that hurts them, something that insults them, think twice. Because who you're insulting now is not who you insulted 2-3 years ago. Your parents are practicing this Dhamma, they listen to this Dhamma, and quite possibly they'll have attained Margaphala. So now you have to be very careful in their presence. Not just in their presence, but between yourselves as well, if you are siblings, if you have siblings. Because this is why I said, think about the 5 things that you need to attain Sothapanna. You have all of these. And so do the other people that are listening to this Dhamma, your parents as well. So who's to say that they haven't attained Margaphala? Who's to say you haven't attained Margaphala? I mean, only you would know for yourself. But who's to say your brother or your sister hasn't? Who's to say your parents haven't? Now, and also this is the thing, once you attain the Margaphala, you become a sponge. What does that mean? What do I mean by that? You become softer within yourself. If you had a brick wall, and you hit a ball towards it, what happens? No, if you hit a tennis ball, think of a tennis ball, a rubber ball. You walk up to a brick wall and you hit the ball towards the wall. What happens? It bounces back, right? And it bounces back and probably hits you, right? What if you had a sponge and you hit a ball towards it? It's probably just going to drop to the floor. It's not going to bounce back and come and hit you if you say you did it from a distance. It's a sponge. Because it takes the impact. It absorbs the impact. You understand what I mean, Sachin? Yeah? And something soft, if you hit it with something hard, it's not going to stick. It's either going to drop on the floor, or sometimes it even absorbs it. Remember, I've always been saying this, as an Arya, you are all students, and the world is now your teacher. So whenever someone comes and insults you, what do? Thank you, teacher. You've just given me something to practice. You've given me, you've given me the materials to do an experiment. How does my mind work in these situations? When you just insulted me there, how did I feel? Because an Arya, if you're an Arahant, 100% of the time, but anyone before an Arahant, I'd say 90% of the time, 99% of the time, will just absorb it. They will not come back at you. They will not retaliate. So if you go and speak up to someone, whether your brother or sister, I mean your parents, okay, they might advise you so that you can fix your faults. But most Aryas, they'll just keep quiet. If you insult them, they'll just take it. Thank you. They'll just take it from you. So you wouldn't even know that you wouldn't even know an Arya because you just keep on insulting them because they're not coming back at you. You just keep going on. And you constantly, continue doing this Arya Upawada. So this is why I say, particularly for our young people connected on Skype, because I know I've said this to you many times before. So this is a repeat for you, but maybe new for people connected online. Before you speak up to your parents, your brothers, your sisters, before you insult them, before you say something to hurt their feelings, make sure, well, the only thing I say is think twice, because you could be insulting an Arya. And if you commit an Arya Upawada, all you are doing is putting a barrier in front of you and Nibbana. The more Arya Upawada you commit, the longer you're gonna extend. I mean, the more difficult you make it for yourself to attain Nibbana. Because once you've done an Arya Upawada, you need to seek forgiveness for that. You don't necessarily have to walk up to that person and say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I've done that." But it's best if you can. It's best if you can. Why? Why is it best if you can? They know you forgive you, and there's one other reason. Remember, if they're an Arya, they're always looking for a way to try and help you. Remember how we discussed how they treat you with metta, karuna, mudita, upeksha, right? They are now looking for a way to help you. But whilst you are giving them all this, insults, shouting at them, they're not going to try and teach you Dhamma at that time, because they think, no, you don't need it right now. You are not in a state of mind where I can teach you something that you're going to take it. So they're going to keep quiet. But what if you then go and say, I really am sorry, I do realize what I did said was wrong. You have just given them an opportunity to teach you something, so that you don't commit that same mistake again. This is why it's best to go and apologize to them if you can, face to face. Not because it makes them feel good. You're doing yourself a favor by doing that. But even if you can't go and see them face to face, think to yourself, like I've told you, when you recite your prayers in front of the Buddha, if you offer them dana at home, the Buddha dana at home, always seek forgiveness from the Aryas. Think in your minds, think to yourself, for all this time in samsara, if I have committed even but the smallest insult to an Arya, whether that's through my mind, through speech, or through action, please may they forgive me for this, because I did that through my ignorance, through my delusion. I was narrow-minded. It was entirely my fault. I should not have done that, but I committed it, and now I can't take that back. But I understand that my ways were wrong. And when you do that, you release good energy into the universe. Your good thoughts release good energy. Okay? And that is, and as payback for that, those blockers you put in the way to attaining, to understanding Dhamma, are slowly removed. So, I was talking about something else, but we went this way because I thought that was an important point, especially for young people connected online. Now, we were talking about Sath Kaya Dittiya. So we talked about how an Arya or a Sothapanna commits a sin versus how a pruthagjana commits a sin. Okay? So you understand that well now. Once someone becomes a Sothapanna, why is it that the Sothapanna and a pruthagjana does it that way? It's through their understanding of the Dhamma. There is no essence to be gained from hurting some other one, because I'm also suffering, you're also suffering. I'm not going to increase the level of suffering you're in right now. In fact, if I can, I'll help you. Right? And even if I'm committing this sin, I know this is a sin, I'll try and repay you at a point I can. So, how is it that they've come to that understanding? It's through the Dhamma. And through the Dhamma, they have realized that there is nothing to be taken that is of value in this world. And that is the vision that they have come to. That's the perspective that they have come to. So, what does that actually mean then? Sath Kaya Dittiya. People commit those sins because they think, Loke Sathya. The world is such a good place. All of these things to be gained give me pleasure, give me value. And it is with that view that they commit sins. But once you become a Sothapanna, you lose that. You no longer view the world in that way. You begin to see the world as Anichcha, Dukkha, Anatta, Asubha. So now you see, once you become a Sothapanna, that view is gone. You didn't have to do anything special for that. Becoming a Sothapanna, looking at this world through Anichcha, Dukkha, Anatta, just through that understanding, you've lost that view, that wrong view, which is Sath Kaya Dittiya. Are you with me so far? So that's the first bond. The second is Vichikiccha. What is Vichikiccha? Again, let's try and understand the meaning of the word. Chi Ki Ichcha. Chi Ki Ichcha. Chi Ki Ichcha. Okay? What is Ichcha? What is Ichcha? You know what Anichcha is? What is Ichcha? Ichcha is liking. Okay? You might have heard of the word, actually no, don't worry about it. Ichcha is liking. In Sinhala there's a good word for this. It's called Ichcha Bhangatva. I know you probably won't understand that. Ichcha Bhangatva is the English, is a Sinhala word for disappointment. What is a disappointment? A disappointment is an expectation that has not been met, right? That is disappointment, right? You expect your parents to have made you a certain dish for you when you get home. It's not there. Now you're disappointed. So Ichcha is that expectation. It's the desire. It's the liking for something. So Chi Ki Ichcha. So there's something to do with liking in this word. Something to do with liking. So what is V? V is the letter V in this word is the meaning in Sinhala that it tries to convey is Vikurti. Have you heard that word before, Vikurti? Vikurti is deformed, or to keep it simple, think of it as something that is bad. If I can think of a better word for it, I'll tell you. But for now, think of it as something that's bad, Vikurti, bad. So, for example, people say, some people have Sinhala kiyot, samahar minissunta Vikurti adahas thiyena. Vikurti u adahas. What does that mean? Some people have bad ideas, exactly. Child molestation. Who in their right sense of mind would do something like that? I mean, if you think about all the Dasa Kusal, who in their right sense of mind would do that? All of the rasa akusala. This is why someone who is in the perfect sense of mind, that is a Rahat and Mahase, doesn't do any akusala. But anyone before an Arahat, there is a potential that they can do akusala. So this is why the first question I asked is, do you think a Sothapanna might commit a sin? Yes, there is a possibility that may happen. However, what we are saying is a Sothapanna doesn't commit or does not have this bond that is Chi Ki Ichcha. So Ichcha is a liking, and V denotes Vikurti or bad. So there's something about bad and liking. This is a bond that we are saying disappears when you become a Sothapanna. A bond to Samsara. Okay? Something that's bad and a liking for that. What are we talking about? Chi is Chitta. Mind, thoughts. Not mind, sorry, it's thoughts. Okay? Ki is actions, or Krutya is actions. Ichcha is liking. So now let's try and tie it up all together. V is bad, Vikurti or bad. Chi is Chitta or thoughts. Ki is Kriya or actions. Ichcha is liking. Now what is that? What does that convey then in one sentence? If that's something that is removed when you become a Sothapanna, what is Chi Ki Ichcha? Chi Ki Ichcha. A liking for bad thoughts and actions. What are things that are bad thoughts and actions? The thoughts and actions that lead one to do what? Commit sins. Dasa akusala. Then not. Any questions with that? Anything unclear? Okay. So you see how now think about how that's connected to the one we talked about before, which is Sath Kaya Dittiya. If a Sothapanna has lost this view that the world is such a pleasurable thing, and things that I can get from this world gives me ultimate pleasure, if that view is removed from them, do you think they will any longer have a liking to commit the Dasa Akusala to get the things that they previously thought were great? No. Why? Because they no longer view the world as full of essence. They see the world as essenceless, asara. And therefore they no longer have a liking to commit Dasa Akusala, the 10 defilements, to get the things that normally people say are of great value. This is why I say that when a Sothapanna commits a sin, they don't do it willfully, they don't do it willingly, they don't do it through a desire to gain something. Not a strong desire. So that's why Sath Kaya Dittiya and Chi Ki Ichcha are both lost when someone becomes a Sothapanna. It's all to do with Anichcha, you see. This is why the entire Buddhism, if you sum it up, you have to start with Anichcha. If once someone understands Anichcha, anything that is Anichcha, you attach yourself to it, you give cause to dukkha. And if that is the process that is always going on, that is essenceless. What's the meaning of doing it? The world is full of Anichcha things, as in things that are causes and effects. Everything you see is just cause and effect. But you then go and attach to it and you set an expectation. You forget that this is cause and effect. You think, oh no, it's the way it is because I want it to be that way. That is the expectation that you set. As soon as you set an expectation, you are now attached to it. And then as soon as the causes change, the effect changes. You set an expectation, the end result is disappointment. Now if you understood that, how many times do you need to go through that process to think, I now understand, why should I keep going through this process? It's pointless. Pointless is a good word for anatta. Pointless, meaningless, essenceless. There's no point in doing it. Once you understand it's pointless, you don't then want to continue going in samsara, continuing to do the same thing. Because all throughout samsara, that's the only thing you've done. You've seen things that are Anichcha in this world, whether that's relationships, right? Money, property, food, job satisfaction, all of these things. Anichcha, they are all Anichcha. Why? Because it's cause and effect. There are causes that give you that effect. Whether from a flower to a house, everything in between. to a palace, to a kingdom, to a country, to this world, to this universe. All the way back to a single-celled amoeba or a bacteria. It's all Anichcha. Why? Because it's cause and effect. As long as the causes are there, you see the effect. The effect is manifest. It's a manifestation. That's the word I was looking for. Once the causes are there, so manifestation is basically, I mean, the best way to describe that is when the causes are there, you see the effect. It's like a rainbow, right? Could you go and touch a rainbow? No. Could someone say, look at the rainbow? Because you're not actually looking at a rainbow. All you're seeing is light being diffracted. Everywhere you see a point of the rainbow, it's just light being diffracted. There is no such thing as a rainbow, if you get what I mean by that. The rainbow does not exist as such. It's just the effects at that given time. Every moment, light is being diffracted. Every moment light is being diffracted, you see a rainbow. The moment that light being diffracted stops, the rainbow disappears. So has a rainbow gone somewhere? Has it come from somewhere? These are the questions that the people used to come and ask the Buddha. Do beings, where did they come from? Where did they go? And that's why the Lord Buddha said, you're asking the wrong question. Don't ask me where they come from, where have they come from, where are they going? Does the fire come from somewhere? Does it go somewhere? No. Every moment of time, in every moment, as long as there's fuel, as long as there's a source for combustion, as in there's air, okay, there's something that is to burn, and there's enough temperature, you see fire. The manifestation is fire. But as soon as any one of those conditions, any one or more of those conditions stop, the fire is no longer there, right? So the same applies to everything in this universe. But what do you and I do? Before we understood this Dhamma, we go and attach ourselves to it. We say, oh yeah, I like that. The moment you attach, you are setting yourself up for disappointment. Why? As soon as the conditions change, what changes? The result changes. But you've attached yourself to that result. You've set an expectation on it. This should be the way I want it. My relationship should be the way I want it. My wife should always talk to me nicely. My kids should always respect me. My house should have, should be the way it is the day I bought it and the day I, refurnished everything. It should be like that forever. You have those expectations. I should always keep my job. Redundancies. You know what a redundancy is? Thankfully you haven't experienced these yet, but your parents may have done. It's when in a job they say your service is no longer needed. We don't want to pay you for doing what you're doing, you're free to go. And then that poor person now needs to go and find another job. Why? Because they have to feed themselves. Not because they have a choice. They have to feed themselves. They have to have a shelter over their heads. They have to feed their children. They have to have clothing around them. They have to go and get medication to treat if they're ill. They have to do these things. Why? Because they are alive. They're born. They have been born. So every time you are born, you have to go and do this. You have to go and do these things. It's like, that neighbor, the child next door that you don't like. You can't be saying it gives you pleasure if you have to do it. If you had a choice about it, maybe. Going on holiday, that gives you pleasure. Why? Because you have a choice about it. Okay, let's put it this way, right? You know how some people, they'll go for meditation retreats? What do? They go into an arame, somewhere like in, for example, in UK you have Amaravati, right? You go into an arame, you go into a quiet room, and there are no noises. You can just focus your mind and you do your meditation. How is that any different from someone that's been locked up in a cell, in a prison? You get food, you get peace and quiet, you get clothing, and if you're sick, they even treat you. How is it different? The difference is, the one that went in the monastery wanted it. They had a choice. The one that's in prison, they had the choice about committing the sin, but they didn't have a choice about where they were going to end up. So is that pleasure now? No. If it's the same result, then what's the problem? You should enjoy that just as much as you are enjoying an Arahant or in a monastery, a quiet room. It's the same result. What's the difference? One had the choice, one didn't have the choice, right? So equally, how can you say food gives you pleasure then? Because you have no choice about it. You have to eat. Yes. When you eat your favorite food, it's pleasure. That is true. But can you not eat if you didn't want to? So just take food. Can you not eat if you didn't want to? You have to. But if it's your favorite food, I mean, yes, then you have a choice, actually. This is what I'm saying. If you have a choice about what, I'm talking about food and then there's your favorite food, right? Two different things. But I'm really glad you raised that point, because other people will have the same question. Food, you have no choice. Favorite food, you have a choice. Okay, what's your favorite food? Pizza. So is mine. I give you pizza every day. Morning, for breakfast, lunch, dinner. Today, tomorrow, day after, the following day, for a year. How long are you going to have pizza for? Before you say, that is no longer my favorite food. At most a week. I'd be surprised if you lasted that long. Once you have the first pizza, think when you have pizza, this is what I'm saying. Whenever you find it, this is the homework I gave you last week. If you find yourself attaching to something, analyze it. Why am I attached to this? Do you feel the same amount of pleasure when you eat the second slice of pizza? When do you enjoy your pizza the most? Before you eat it. That's maybe my tongue like that. When do you enjoy pizza most? Before you eat it. When you can smell it, when you can see the pizza, opened up, and you can see the, some, what do you call it? So when you can smell it, okay, someone brings it, it's nice and hot, and while you're waiting for it, before you eat it, that's when it gives you the most pleasure. Why? Think about what's happening. Your mind is now waiting for that pizza. When you decide, right, I want pizza today. What's your mind doing now? I want pizza. It's now set an expectation. It's very different to how when you watch a movie. I'll use that example as well. Let's continue with pizza for now. Okay? Your mind is now looking for pizza. It's not your tongue that's looking for pizza. It's your mind that's looking for pizza. It's not your tummy that's looking for pizza. Your tummy just wants food. Your mind wants pizza. Okay? So you're now waiting. You ordered your pizza online, and your delivery driver says it's going to arrive in, say, 20 minutes. Every 5 minutes you go back on. Every few minutes you refresh the page. Have they sent it yet? Nowadays, you have this tracker, pizza tracker. It's in the oven. It's being made. It's now being quality checked. It's being passed over to the delivery driver. The delivery driver is on the way. Why? Your mind is it's now suffering. Your mind is now in anguish. I want that pizza. So when you get that pizza, and now it's opened up in front of you, your mind has this expectation, right? This is what I've been looking for. I've now got it, and this is going to make me so happy. You've created this picture through what? The adverts you've seen online. You think those adverts online and the pictures on the website are pictures of real pizzas? You really think so? They have been photoshopped. You know what photoshopping is? They color it up. What about the adverts on television? How someone shows, they open their mouth and put it slowly into it, and then they, in slow motion they see them biting the pizza, right? Cheese kind of melting on the sides. When have you ever actually ordered a pizza and it's arrived at home and you see, the cheese that's melting like they show in the adverts? Never. Here they do something called cheese crust or something like that. I ordered a cheese crust one day because I saw, oh my God, wow, you can have cheese that's like really soft, and they show how you pull that out of your mouth, and the cheese is kind of sticky, right? And it's kind of it's like a bridge between that piece and your mouth. You order the pizza and you actually eat it. It's nothing like it. It's just pizza that's, cheese that's gone cold inside the crust. But your mind was set on those things. We talked about Patichcha Samuppadaya one day, and we talked about fish and chips, we talked about hamburgers and pizza today. Right? Your mind has now this map of, oh, this is what I'm going to get. It's created this picture. But what you're actually getting on the day, at that moment in time, is not what your mind expected. Because if happiness was there in that pizza, Sashi, you should be able to eat it forever. But you can't. So think, why? So then, does happiness exist there? Or is it because your mind was in discomfort? Your mind was in discomfort because it was waiting for that pleasure that it thought it was going to get from pizza. And then you gave it the pizza. You relieved that discomfort. But you keep feeding it pizza. And now your mind's going, no, this is not what I asked for. It's not giving me the pleasure that I wanted. I had a picture of what it was going to be like. It's nothing like it. I can only eat 2 or 3 slices and now I feel full, I feel bloated. Have you never felt bloated after eating pizza? Sometimes. I feel it all the time. Right? Your tummy starts making noises. You feel thirsty. You need to drink a lot of water because it's very oily, salty. But they don't tell you any of that in the adverts, do they? No, because that doesn't help them sell what they want to sell. It doesn't help your mind create this mental picture of what pizza is or what they want you to think and then attach yourself to it. Because if you saw the bad side of it, you're not going to buy it. And then you start eating it, you then realize it's not there in what I was. Why do people need to buy more than one car? Okay, forget about if you had more people that need it, so therefore you need multiple cars. Collectors. They buy one car, they drive in it for a while, and they go, actually, I got an Aston Martin, drive my Aston Martin and go, it's not there in this Aston Martin, maybe I can get the newer model, maybe it's in there. People, that's what this is. People think that comfort and pleasure exist in worldly things, it's out there, when actually that only exists within your own mind. And we've given you proof that it exists within your own mind. Because if it existed in that object, it should be able to give you that forever, but it can't. The moment your mind is relieved of that stress, of that anguish, of that discomfort, you feel pleasure. But as you keep feeding it pizza, your mind is now saying, oh my God, I'm full now, I want to stop. No. Or, okay, so imagine if you stop, right, okay, next meal, dinner, or the following day, right, pizza again. Oh, okay. Just picture yourself, right? First day, start of the week, Monday, parents said, oh, tonight it's pizza. Yay! Next day, hi mommy, what are you having today? Pizza. Oh, okay. No worries, okay, that's fine. Thursday, the following day, what are you having tonight? Pizza. Did we not already have pizza Monday and Tuesday? Yeah, so what's the problem? Fourth day? No, I'm sorry, I can't have pizza tonight. Why? I mean, can we have something else, please, now? Exactly, but every single day, yes. It's like any food session. But it's the same. This is why people look for variety. Why do people look for variety in food? If food is to give us nutrients, have you heard of Samma Posha? In Sri Lanka they have this thing called Samma Posha. You can buy it in here as well. They come in these packets. And you mix it with water or milk. And what they say is in Samma Posha, the reason it's called Samma Posha, Posha is nutrients. Samma is, think of it as in the right amounts. So what they've done with that product is they've actually created artificially a kind of food that has all the nutrients in the right amounts. Not for everyone, but particularly for young children. So you mix that with milk or water and put some sugar if you like for taste, you can eat it. Now, that gives you all the nutrients that you need. Mostly all the nutrients you need. So if that was the case and you were eating, so you wanted to give yourself the nutrients, the nourishment, you could survive on Samma Posha for the rest of your life. But you can't. Why? Because your mind's looking for variety. Now it knows the Vedana Sanya of Samagosha. I don't want it now, I want something else. Why is it after a certain while you have some kind of food? After a little while has gone by, you want it again, but not the day after. So say, or even holidays. People go to a country, let's say you go to France on holiday. Next holiday you're not going to go to France, you're going somewhere else. But after a few years, then we go back to France again. Yeah, okay, no worries. Because your mind now, those Vedana Sanya have started to, you've started to forget that. The feelings and the perceptions that you've got. If you keep seeing this, otherwise people in France shouldn't go on holiday. If the pleasure of a holiday was in France or in Australia or in Malaysia or in Maldives or in Sri Lanka, and that is why people go to those countries, well then people who live in those countries should not be going elsewhere, because the holiday pleasure is in the country that they are. But they don't, they go to other countries on holiday. Why? Because the pleasure does not exist in that country, it exists within your mind. When your mind is looking for Vedana Sanya, it's frustrated, I need Vedana Sanya. And you give it that, a sigh of relief, removed temporarily from the discomfort. And that feels good. I mentioned movies. Think about what they do in films. At the start, so this is generally how a film is directed and produced, right? At the beginning, they introduce the characters. So you work out who the good guys are, who the bad guys are. That's what you do, right? You watch any kind of movie, you work out, okay, these are the good guys, they do things that I don't like, therefore they're the bad guys. These guys do things that I like and I would normally do, so they're the good guys. What do they do next? Once you attach yourself to who the good guys are, they put those good guys through suffering. Something happens to the good guy. Imagine it's a couple. They split them up. Something happens, there's a rift between the two of them. There's some kind of problem. Or one of the guys gets shot, or someone gets abducted, kidnapped, something happens. So what is the director doing to you now? They're creating what in your mind? Discomfort, anguish, grief, sorrow, pain. What do they do then after that? They relieve you of that pain. How? The problem is solved and somehow the good guy wins. What have they done? How have they given you satisfaction out of that movie? They have given you information, so you go and attach yourself to things. They then put those things that you've attached to in a state where it's going to make you feel uncomfortable, because the hero in the movie gets shot, or someone gets robbed that you really like. The couple splits up and you think, oh, they should be together. Why are they like that? Right? They've just taken away from you something that you like, and then they give it back to you. And that makes you feel good. So now how does a movie give you pleasure? What is it actually doing? It's putting you in pain, it's putting you in suffering, and then relieving you from it. Now, so isn't that how you get comfort then? Isn't that what we take as pleasure? Get ourselves into discomfort, relieve us from it, there you have comfort. That's what I've been doing in all this samsara. I've been drinking seawater. Putting myself in discomfort so that I can relieve myself from it, so that it makes me feel good. How stupid. How stupid is that? When you watch the movie next time, think about what's happening. This was the homework for last week, and I wanted to do that again this week, because today we've talked about it in more detail. Okay, so we're talking about Sath Kaya Dittiya, we talked about Chi Ki Ichcha. Let's talk about Seelabbatha Paramasa, and then we'll bring it to an end. Okay? Once someone has understood, so again, think about what the difference between a pruthagjana and Sothapanna, because what we are talking about is how the state of a Sothapanna, the nature of a Sothapanna. They have let go of these three things. Not forcefully, it's just fallen. It's just being released from their hands, because they're no longer bound by those things, by those fetters. Seelabbatha Paramasa. What is Seelabbatha Paramasa? Seelabbatha Paramasa was what the Bodhisattva did up until the point he became a Buddha. Where did he go to first? He went to the Alara Kala. What was he looking for? I have a problem, and that is this rebirth process. At least he said, I can see that if I am born, I'm subject to pain, I'm subject to death, I'm subject to sickness. How do I stop it? Alara Kala gave him all the teaching that he could, and he realized, this isn't cutting for me. I'm not getting it from here. Then he went to Uddhakaranga. He didn't get that from there. What did he do then? He then went and experienced 6 years of what? Abstaining from giving himself any pleasure of any sort, right? I think there's a word for it, I can't remember what it is now. Austerities, but extreme austerities. Subjecting himself to any kind of physical pain that he could imagine. Pulling hairs out one by one from his body. He thought that was going to help him attain Nibbana. Because he thought once you had repaid all of the bad karmas you've done by subjecting yourself to pain, you have now kind of paid back your loan. It's like taking a loan. You paid your loan, now you're free. He tried that, didn't work. He stopped feeding himself food, and that's why his body was, you've seen pictures of him, right? When he was a bodhisattva. How he says when he touched the front of his stomach, he could feel his spine, and when he touched from the back, he could feel his stomach. He was famished. He would survive on 1 grain of rice a day. 1 grain of rice. That's how much pain he subjected himself. Now, there's a reason why he had to suffer that for 6 years. I'll tell that on another day. I'll give you that story another day. That was again bad karma that he had done in the past. That is why, if you are subject to bad vipaka, that can only be a result of bad karma. If you are subject to good vipaka, that can only be a result of good karma. I'll tell you what that is on another day. But so these 6 years he spent, all that he did because he wanted to attain Nibbana. But he realized none of this is going to get me there. And that is why when he realized that it was the eightfold path that was going to get him to Nibbana, he said, abstain from extreme pleasures, kama sukhallikana yoga, and extreme discomfort, attakila matana yoga. Those two extremes are not going to give you what you're looking for. Engaging yourself, indulging yourself in sensual pleasure is not going to get you. It's not going to get you to Nibbana, because that's what he did when he was a prince in the palace. If you think you've got sensual pleasure today through food, music, whatever, you can't begin to compare what you had to what he had when he was the king and was going to become the emperor. Sakkviti Raja. That's what he was destined for. At least that's what his father thought he was destined for. But what he realized was, doing all of these other things is not going to get you to Nibbana. Some people, have you seen in some countries, and there are documentaries of this, like in Burma particularly, they do this, where people believe, is it Burma or Thailand, one of the two, if I'm wrong, forgive me for that. People think, monks, what they do is they actually they walk a long distance, over many days, sometimes many weeks, from wherever their home is or wherever their monastery is to this temple, where they think the Buddha has been reincarnated. So there is a person, and they think that is the Buddha, a reincarnation of him. And the way they walk that distance is by prostrating themselves. Do you know what prostrating is? They lie down on the floor. Every step, that's what they do. So they go one step forward, lie down on the floor, like with their arms out of the front of them, and then face down onto the ground, and then that's a worship. They stand up, one more step, do that again. Stand up, one more step, do that again. No wonder that takes many weeks. And they travel for thousands of kilometers that way. At least many hundreds of kilometers. There are many documentaries like this on YouTube. You can watch this if you're interested. But they think that is what helps them get to Nibbana. Today you understand what is the problem that we are trying to solve. It's this raga, dvesha, moha, lust or desire, aversion or anger, and this delusion that's in your mind that is keeping you bound to samsara. That is the problem that I need to solve. And then you practice the Arya Ashtangika Marga. You first come to the understanding, the Samma Ditti. Sang is what? Delusion and attachment. Ma, what is Ma? It's not mother I'm talking about. Ma in Sinhala is to remove yourself from. When normally in Pansal, when you probably remember this, when you go and do when you go to the temple and you worship, at the end they will go, you say a gatha, and as part of the gatha, one of the phrases is Ma me bala samagamo satan samagamo hotu yava Nibbana Patthiya. Imina punya kammena ma me bala samagamo satan samagamo hotu yava Nibbana Patthiya. That's a gatha that you say. What that means is, until the moment that I realize Nibbana, bala samagama. What is bala? What is samagama? Association. What is bala? Bala is bad people. May I not have to associate bad people until the moment I attain Nibbana. Because why? Bad people are not going to help you attain Nibbana. People who have defilements are not going to help you attain Nibbana. It's a Kalyana Miththa that are going to help you with that. So ma me bala samagama. Ma kyanne, remove me from that. Please do not let me. May the merits that I have attained from doing this thing. It could be offering a dani to the Hamduru. Okay. May the merits of doing this help me to dissociate myself from any bad people that keep me from attaining Nibbana. Okay, so that is what ma is. So sang is what? Delusion, ignorance and attachment. So ma is to remove yourself from that. So sang ma drishti. Drishti is vision. So what's Sothapanna? Once they've understood what the problem is, what the cause of the problem is, how do you solve that problem? Now, as soon as they've done that, now they realize, okay, avidya, trishna, delusion and attachment is the cause of the problem. Now I understand, I need to remove that. Now I'm going to work towards that. This is why Arya Ashtangika Marga starts with Samma Ditti. Samma Ditti. The Noble Eightfold Path starts with, well, in English it's called right view, right? There's a much deeper meaning than right view in there. It is a view, yes, but the word right does not do it justice. It's the view that's going to help you stop this rebirth cycle. That is why only a Sothapanna has come to Samma Ditti. Once they've come there, they then practice what? Samma Kamman. Doing the deeds that they need to do to attain Nibbana. What is that? Everything that they do, they analyze. Why am I doing this? Am I doing something that's going to increase raga, dvesha, moha in me? Or am I doing something that's going to help reduce the raga, dvesha, moha in me? And if you do that, can you not attain Nibbana? You can. Samma Ditti, Samma Kamma, Samma Vacha. The words you say, the way you speak to other people, you don't say things, when you were pruthagjana, you said things that would arouse in other people anger, that would set people up against each other, that you would say things that would make people feel that going and making a lot of money was what's going to make you happy, doing the best job you can was what's going to make you happy. But now you are a Sothapanna. Today, what's going to make you? If someone asks you what is going to make me happy, what are you going to say? Go and attain Nibbana. There is no other happiness I can give you. I can suggest to you. But to do that, you should have seen it for yourself. That's why it has to start with Samma Ditti. So all your speech, well, English translation, right speech, right? That's what they say, Samma Vacha. So Samma Ditti, Samma Kamman, Samma Vacha, Samma Vayam. Right? So that's normally they say right livelihood. Right livelihood does not do it justice. Now the purpose of your existence is to attain Nibbana. Previously, you gave your life value because you thought, I need to become a millionaire. I need to become a billionaire. I want to be a doctor. I want to be an engineer. I want to be an athlete. I want to be a sports person or a singer or a dancer or whatever. What you thought happiness existed in being able to achieve those things. But today, no. You realize the only salvation, the only satisfaction, the only happiness exists if I attain Nibbana. So the purpose of your existence, the purpose of this life is to attain Nibbana. Now that is right livelihood. Samma Ditti, Samma Sankappa, Samma Vacha, Samma Kammanta, Samma Ajiva, Samma Vayama. Samma Vayama, the loose translation is right effort. But what is the Vayama? What is effort? What is the effort you need now? To always look in your thoughts, always analyze your thoughts, remove anything that is giving rise to Raga, Dvesha, Moha. Fight with Raga, Dvesha, Moha. Remember what I said the other day, you see a box of chocolates, what do? Before you stand up, why do I need that box of chocolates? You fight against it, don't give up. If you don't need that food at that moment in time, don't let desire take over. Fight it, don't give up. Your Lord Buddha, when he sat under that Bodhi tree, he made a determination. He made the strongest determination anyone has ever made in this world. Ever. Even if my bones decay, my blood dries up, my skin dries up, and I fall into pieces, I am not going to stand up from this place until I have become a Samma Samma. Now that is right effort. That is the kind of determination, that is the kind of moral strength that we need to attain Nibbana. Because, we have these defilements within us. And therefore, when the world comes and interacts with us, or when we go to interact with the world, you're always you're having to fight this battle. But once you become a Sothapanna, you have the right view now. So now you can start fighting with your enemy. And your enemy is not the person next to you. Your enemy is the Raga, Dvesha, Moha in your mind. So that's right effort. Samma Ditti, Samma Sankappa, Samma Vacha, Samma Kammanta, Samma Ajiva, Samma Vaya, Samma Sati. So when you are doing this, you're always having, your thoughts are always, okay, what do I do now? Your Sathya, that is your state of mind, is always about, I need to attain Nibbana, I need to attain Nibbana, I need to attain Nibbana, I'm not going to stop. That's the only thing I need to do now. Like you're obsessed with it. Normally they say obsession is a bad thing, true. But obsession, to attain Nibbana, that obsession, no one had such an obsession like your Samma Samma. Like the Bodhisattva and Mahan says, you and I don't have that obsession, unfortunately. Have that obsession. Try and create that obsession within yourself. But for that, you need to first come to Samma Ditti. That's where it all starts. And then Samma Samadhi. The Samadhi that you attain, once you have those thoughts in your mind constantly, your mind is only focused on that, on attaining Nibbana. No other types of Miccha Samadhi come into your mind. Your mind does not go and dwell in other places where you're looking for sensual pleasures. That's no longer what you're looking for. The only Samadhi that you are looking for are the Samadhi that's going to help you attain Nibbana. And through practicing Anichcha, Dukkha, Anatta, you attain the states of mind that takes you towards that. The first dhyanas, the second dhyanas, the third dhyanas, the fourth dhyanas, but all Arya dhyanas. You're not looking for dhyana that gives you superpowers, because that's not Nibbana. You're not looking for dhyanas that helps you see the other worlds. That might be a byproduct, it might be a bonus, but that's not what you're after. All you want is Nibbana. And then, once you've practiced that path and you fulfill that path, the result, again, all of those things are the causes. There's nothing you need to do in addition to that to get the result, which is Samma Jnana, Samma Vimukti. The Jnana is that once you've completed that path, I have now completed this journey. This is why the Buddha says, I have attained what I have always been looking for. Once you become a Rahatan Vansi, once you go through that, you come to the realization. Previously I was looking for this, that, and the other, but now I have completed my journey. I have stopped this rebirth process. I have found the root cause of the problem and I have treated it, and now I am free from that. And that is Samma Vimukti. I have realized that liberation. I am no longer going through this samsaric process. So from the moment, so this is another meaning of stream enterer. If that is the stream, entering that is a stream enterer. That's why a Sothapanna is called a stream enterer. The Arya Ashtanga Marga is the stream that leads you to the ocean, that is Nibbana. Okay? So that is the path to Nibbana, not practicing virtues like a dog or a cat. I mean, some people do these things. Like if you go to India, there are parts of India where people actually they live their lives like animals, and that's not to disrespect them, but they think if I live like a dog, that is the way to seek salvation. So they'll only eat food that's put on the ground. They won't eat off a plate. They won't wear any clothes. They won't wash themselves. They don't think about hygiene, because they think if I live like an animal, that's gonna give me salvation. Their goal is good, but the way they're going about it is what's wrong. Their goal, their aim is praiseworthy, but the way they're going about it is what's wrong. This is why the Buddha says, once you become a Sothapanna, you no longer engage in all of these other things to attain Nibbana. Engaging in all of these other ways, thinking that that's what's going to give you Nibbana, is Seelabbatha Paramasa. Sil, Vruta, Paramasa. Sil, Vruta, Paramasa, Seelabbatha Paramasa. Sil, Vruta kya naam? Vruta is a circle. A Vrutaya is a circle. In Sinhala, Vrutaya is in English a circle. So once you define a circle, you're saying, I'm going to live inside this circle. My practices, my beliefs are going to be within this circle. If my circle is that being a dog and practicing doing the things like a dog is what's going to help me attain Nibbana, then that's where I've drawn my border. I'm going to do this, and that's going to help me attain Nibbana. And you constantly keep doing it, but with no fruit. You're not going to attain Nibbana. You just constantly keep doing those things. Sometimes people give up and go, actually, doing a dog is not going to help. Now I'm going to live like a cow. And they think that's going to help me attain Nibbana. This is why the Lord Buddha says, you have to attain Sothapanna to realize doing all of those things is not going to help you attain Nibbana. It is only the Arya Ashtangika Marga. That's the Noble Eightfold Path. Unfortunately, using the word noble to describe Arya is not good enough. But we've discussed what Arya is before. Right? Riya, Navatane. Riya being the vehicle. Riya. Opposite of vehicle. Opposite of driving. Driving where? In Samsara. So just using the word noble does not describe that. But unfortunately, that's what we've got to work with. Because if I use another word, you go and look it up in a book. I don't see that word. You're looking for, if you want to study the Noble Eightfold Path, you have to go and you're reading books, you have to look up Noble Eightfold Path. If you go on the internet, you have to type Noble Eightfold Path into Google, or you're not going to get results for that. But that's okay. But this is why you come and speak, we have these chats, so I can give more meaning to what you would otherwise do. Okay, so this is why when you become a Sothapanna, Sath Kaya Dittiya, Vichikiccha and Seelabbatha Paramasa are gone forever. But now you see why that happens. And you also hopefully understand that trying to remove Sath Kaya Dittiya, Vichikiccha and Seelabbatha Paramasa is not the way to become Sothapanna. Once you become a Sothapanna, you get that Samma Ditti, then all of these Sath Kaya Dittiya, Vichikiccha and Seelabbatha Paramasa are gone for you. A gives you B, but you can't say B gives you A. It doesn't work that way. Okay, any questions? Good heavens, you've been talking for 3 hours. You can become an Arahant before you become a monk. But there is again a principle, Sashi, that once you become an Arahant, within a period of 7 days, if you don't become a monk, your life comes to an end. I can try and explain that if you like. But you don't, I mean, there are one or two examples in the Tripitaka where people have become arahants while they were, in their lay life. So you see, how is an arahant different from anybody else? What are the qualities of an arahant? An arahant doesn't go and ask for things. They don't ask for, can you give me this please? Can you give me that please? They get what they're given. They take what they're given. They would go for alms, that is true. But, they don't go and, can I have that please? Can I have this please instead? They don't ask like that. If they are asked, for example, there was a time when Venerable Sariputta was very sick, and Venerable Moggal Lama approached him and asked him, Venerable Sir, what is wrong with you? I'm really sick. Oh, what can I get for you that might cure you for that? And he said, this is what my mother used to give me when I had this while I was younger. That would cure me. Now, you might have heard the story where Venerable Sariputta went to visit his mother before he attained Parinibbana, and then all the devas came and worshipped him. That is another story. I'll talk about that another day. Now, if these devas and the Brahmanas came and worshipped Venerable Sariputta at his feet, do you think if Venerable Sariputta was sick, he couldn't just ask one of the devas, can you go and get me this? I mean, imagine this is the chief disciple of the Lord Buddha. There will be other monks who will be interested in him, and always associating him. Right? And always asking, what can I get you? What can I do for you? Or at least, associating him. He could quite easily say, oh, I have a tummy, can you go and get this for me, please? No, he would not do that. An arahant does not work like that, because he doesn't have this expectation of surviving another moment. He will, if someone asks him, Venerable Sir, is there something I can get you? Then he'll answer that question. But he's not going to go out and ask for it. So this is why, if you are a lay person, chances are people are not going to come and ask you that sort of thing. People are not going to come and give you food for nothing. So for an arahant to be sustained, or for their life to be sustained, you need the construct, you need the environment that comes with, or the way that people treat monks. They look after monks, they attend to them. You need that to happen once you become an arahant. If not, then an arahant will not survive from that. And so you can understand that is one of the main reasons why you can become an arahant before you become a monk. But once you become an arahant, if you don't become a monk within 7 days, then you attain Parinibbana at that point. Okay? Any other questions? So, you attain Sothapanna Sashi at the moment that it happens when you are listening to the Dhamma. Analyzing the world as Anichcha Dukkha Anatta is absolutely going to be helpful, and this is why you have to spend most of your time doing that and some of your time listening to the Dhamma. But once when you do your analysis, you're going to find areas where things are not clear to you, or actually it's going to make even more clear to you. Oh, I see, now I put it in practice, it's working for me. Because it's a difference between knowing and understanding. You know something, you take it for face value, but when you apply it, when you practice it, it becomes an understanding. Because I can now see how that fits in. And it becomes an understanding, and then you don't forget it after that. If you remember something, you're going to forget it. Chances are you can forget it. But once you understand something, you're not going to forget it. Right? So similarly, a Sothapanna, when they before you become a Sothapanna, you listen to the Dhamma, you can go and analyze it, you can analyze the world and try and understand Anichcha Dukkha Anatta. But the moment of becoming a Sothapanna happens when you're listening to the Dhamma. Why? Because you need when an Arya is talking to you, they make a strong wish, not a wish, but They make a determination. They make a, I suppose it's a wish, but it's more than a wish. It's hoping that may what I say help this person attain Nibbana. May they be enabled to understand this Dhamma and stop this rebirth. So may they be able to understand the problem and try and treat that. And with that comes a lot of compassion. And that compassion is, it comes in the form of energies. And those energies, when you can sense that creates the conditions for the mind to work in a way that means you begin to understand, and that key is, that lock is unlocked. So it's not something that you can see clearly, but that is the logic behind why someone becomes a Sothapanna at the moment that they're listening to the Dhamma. And also, so this is why you need to listen to Dhamma from an Arya, because when they preach Dhamma, you can tell the difference between someone who's teaching you something that they remember or read off a book versus someone who gives you examples, metaphors and similes and say, apply it this way, apply it that way, through their own life examples, because they've understood the principle. And then once you've understood the principle, bringing in examples is simple. It's understanding the principle that's difficult. Well, that's the challenge. I won't say it's difficult, but that's the challenge. So, in answer to your question, you need to be listening to the Dhamma at that point. It doesn't have to be face to face, although face to face helps a lot. Even if you're listening through another medium, that could be on a CD or online, that can still happen. Now, some people have different views about this. Some people say, actually, no, it has to be face to face. And actually, some people also say that you don't have to be listening to the Dhamma. Some people say, actually, you can meditate and attain Sothapanna. But the Dhamma that I have learned from the Tripitaka does not say that. Sotha, another word for Sotha is ear. Sotha is ear. Sotha translated, one meaning is Aryashtangika Marga, Noble Eightfold Path. Another meaning is the ear. So Sotha Apana. Apana is to arrive. So you arrive to an understanding, a state of mind through your ear. What is it you can get through your ear? The Dhamma. You have to listen through your ear. It's not Chakku Apana. Chakku is eye. It's Sotha Apana. It's not Jivha Apana. It's not something you can taste and become Sothapanna. Right? It's not Pottabha Apana. It's Sotha Apana. Why? Because you need to listen to the Dhamma, and that's that moment that you attain Nibbana. You have to attain Sothapanna state. Okay? Any other questions? Okay, someone's posted a question, why does an Arahant Mahansa die if he doesn't become a monk in 7 days? I don't know if they missed I think we talked about it a little bit. So if you rewind this about 10 minutes, about 10 minutes back, we tried to give the answer there. We'll make the recording available so that you can listen to it at leisure. And I'm sure there will be people who have been unable to join us. And they can listen as well. So, in summary again, if they missed that and they're really looking for the answer right now, it's because an Arahant Mahansa cannot sustain themselves in the practice or in the construct of being in a lay life. You need, there's a certain way that a monk, the practices of a monk, when you see a monk, you go and offer them something. A monk does not, an Arahant Mahansa does not go asking for things. People come and offer it. But if you are in lay clothes and just live a lay life, people wouldn't come and do that generally. And actually, food that you take can sustain you for 7 days. So if you ate today, if you don't eat again in 7 days' time, you'll probably die. The human body can sustain itself without food for about 7 days. And that's where the 7 days comes in. Right? So, this is why so this is why an Arahant and say works in that way. But it's a principle. I mean, I'm sure there'll probably be another answer, a more fuller answer. I can give you one day. But for now, that's what I can offer you. Any other questions? Okay. Right. I think we've been talking for about 3.5 hours now. Did you feel that time go by? No, I mean, that is nothing special about me. Remember, I always say this. It's nothing special about me. That is the beauty of this Dhamma. You know, when the Lord Buddha starts to preach, he would go on day and night. Again, and if I ask the Buddha today, oh, sir, how do you do that? I mean, to be able to physically do that, yes, you need to be a Buddha and have the have the physique of a Buddha and the powers that come with all the paramita that he's filled in samsara. But for people to be able to listen to that, it is the beauty of the Dhamma. When you listen to this Dhamma, you're like, give me more, any much of it, and I don't feel tired. That's the beauty of it. Okay, right. In which case, we'll bring today's discussion to an end. Seelabbatha Paramasa.